baby.
Good. This is the first time leaving them. So hopefully Ron will do good.
Okay, we can get started. Please rise for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Before we get started, I'd also like to, a moment of silence, that since the last board meeting, we've had 2 employees of the town who have lost members of their family. Shelley Dale Hall's father passed away, Jerry Dale, and Lee Preston's sister-in-law, Ann, has passed away since the last time. So if we could please have a moment of silence for these folks. Okay, thank you very much. Okay, first thing before we get to the bills, we did receive the final payment for Surgy, which is Water District 9. Their final payment in the amount of 40, where is it? There it is. For $47,033.23. This will complete it. Now, they are still obligated for up to 1 year, so that if there is anything like, especially come springtime, any sediment where it has, over the pipes, we have a large depression, they'll come back and repair that, any seeding or anything else. So that is still part of the contract, but this is their final payment, 4th and final payment, so that we are done with making those payments on Water District 9. So if I could have a motion on that, please.
Make a motion that we pay, I guess we got
Surgy,
for the Water District 9.
I'll second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So carried. Okay. Oh, okay, I'm sorry, yes, since we're doing this electronically, those members that are present here at this time are Tom McCabe, Margaret Swan, Carrie Richardson, Lynn Hill, Maureen Beach, and myself, Sean Hogue. Lance Mark, are you on the line?
Yes, I am.
Thank you, sir. Dale Brooks, are you on?
Present.
Excellent. Okay, thank you.
Sean, you also have Dwight Keenick on the line.
Excellent. Thank you, sir.
Yep.
Okay, if we can proceed then on the bills. Everybody's had a chance to look the bills over?
Yep.
Yes.
I move we accept and pay the bills this morning.
I'll second.
All in favor?
I have a quick,
Okay, hold on.
Carrie.
Carrie?
there was, well, actually, it's not with bills, but it is with finances. So maybe we can go ahead and pass the bills, and then I'll ask about it afterwards. with
Okay,
finances.
is that the one you sent an email on?
Yeah, not today, but it was before. I was just seeing to make sure that it went through. It was just a question as to, the percentage sheet, the report that goes through and shares the percentages. The deputy, or the deputy superintendent, no, I'm sorry, the deputy supervisor had the funds in there, in that line, was like 1,040 or something like that was taken out. And if I'm correct, that's for Tom, and it should be 400, and I just think that maybe Lee's amount that was supposed to be taken out went into the wrong or went out of the wrong account. So I just wanted to make sure that that was, looked at.
Didn't we email you and correct that?
I didn't get an email back on that, so that's why I was just checking. She may have already corrected it, but I just didn't see an email back.
Okay,
Um,
we'll follow up with Lee on that if
Yeah,
they,
from the email that was taken care of, because some of it's paying after the first of the year and it's actually coming out of last year's budget and some of that stuff.
No, that's different. That was
That
the
was a
20,
different one?
yeah, sorry, that was a different, that was a different one. Yeah, she explained that. It was, I'm sorry. I meant to have this pulled up beforehand. It was the financial report that she sent out. It went to my personal email first, so I gotta, let me see if I can pull it up that way.
Not the abstract, right?
Oh, okay, so, no, sorry, she did, somehow I didn't see it. She did email me back. Okay. All right, I'll talk with Lee about it afterwards, because it's not to do with bills, I'm sorry.
okay, then once again, on the bills. Anybody make a motion?
Yeah, I think.
Tom made her.
I made a
Yeah,
motion.
we just need to vote on it.
Margaret, second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So carried. Minutes from January 13. Everybody have a chance to read them over?
Yeah.
The heck was that?
Somebody's phone vibrating.
Snowmobile.
Oh, snowmobile outside, okay.
Outside, we're on the building watching.
Okay. So I hear a motion on the minutes then from January 13?
Make the motion to accept them as written.
I'll second
All in favor?
it.
Aye.
Opposed? So carried.
Before you get started, Sean, I don't know if we do this under old business or new business, but Maureen, the justice thing that we have to do.
Yes, thank you. Yes, that should be, thank you, Tom. That should be on the calendar, or on the agenda.
Real quick before we move to that, sir, what's your name again back there?
Jerry
Jerry
Menzie.
Menzie. Okay, thank you.
Yep.
If you was wondering who Jerry Menzie is, he's the one that is videotaping
Okay, what
these
do we-
proceedings.
This, you can just make note that you received this letter from the court, and that we have, Lynn Hill is the one that will be doing the books.
Oh, this is for the audit.
Yes, so this is the letter asking for the audit.
Right.
So it doesn't have to be any resolution or anything, you're just saying that, yes,
We have to be aware of it, that it's.
you've accepted
and
the
they'll
letter,
send- they'll be notified.
Yep. and that you know that, if you're telling Lynn that, okay, the books are to be audited, but he knows that.
Okay, and we go through this every year where we have to have our court records audited, and then a report is sent to Albany. Okay, so we have received the letter, we're all aware of that. Lynn, you gotta make an appointment to meet up with Maureen to get the books. Okay? Excellent. Thank you very much. Remember? If not,
No, you can keep it.
I'll put it right
I
in
just picked it up, brought it, so we.
Thank you.
We covered.
Thank
We
you.
missed it last month.
Yep, good thing you did, Tom.
Okay, Water Districts 9, 10, 11. On Water District 9, I received this today. Whereas the town of Barre developed the budget for Water District number 9 project based on an estimate for the net interest expense, and whereas the actual cost was higher than this estimate, be it resolved, the town board hereby authorizes an increase of $5,403.35 in the budget line for the net interest expense, with a corresponding decrease in the contingency. I received this, I sent it on to Shelby, so she was aware of it, and to Lee as well. This is to cover the expenses on Water District 9. Like I said, I just received it today. This is so we can pay off the bills. I'll be happy when we finally finish the last of the bills on Water District 9. So what I need is a motion on that to make the transfer of funds.
Okay, I move that we transfer the funds, and what are we transferring it from?
They will be transferred from they'll be coming out corresponding from contingency.
Okay, out of the contingency fund to cover the expenses.
Yes.
I'll second that.
Just for clarification, so the money comes out of contingency, covers these bills, and then goes to the Water District 9 expenses, so it's, ends up being a wash as far as.
It will be, because it will come out of the grant. That money will be placed back into the contingency.
Okay. And what was the total again for that? I know it's 5,000 something.
$5,403.35.
Okay, thank
Okay,
you.
and Tom, you made that motion?
Yes, I did.
And I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, so carried. Now, Water District 9, like I said, hopefully we're finally getting to the end of this thing. We get the bills all paid off on this, so we can see what we have left over with grant money towards whatever we need to do with purchasing needed materials for the Water District. But that's it about Water District 9. We're there. Water District 10, the letters have been sent to the county as well as the comptroller's office on this water district. They've been notified. We are moving along. Labella has been in contact with RD, meaning Road Development. There are a number of documents prior to bid that have to be completed and into Road Development. And I've been working with Labella and getting those documents taken care of. Once that's all taken care of, we can put this out to bid and see who the contractor would be. And hopefully Water District 10 could go in the ground maybe, I'm just guesstimating, the end of summer, maybe the beginning of fall.
Question on that, when, do we have to hear back from the comptrollers before we can put it out to bid and all that stuff?
Yes.
Okay.
Water District 11, I made mention of this before. I met with MRB Group, meaning Paul Chatfield and Scott Madison, which are the gentlemen who have put in our previous water districts. The purpose being is one last water district to finish off the rest of the town of Barre. That will be looking at areas where there is no water at this time, connecting dead ends so that we have loops, which will greatly increase the quality of the water in that area. It also will decrease the amount of water we have to waste by flushing all the time. So that's what we're looking at right now. MRB, they are coming out, they're driving around, they're taking a look at all the different areas, seeing how many units there are on each road, what's the possibility of how they can run the water lines. They're taking a look at 2 areas that I talked to them about that we can't supply water to, and that would be like White City as well as the south end of Old 98. It's too far of a stretch going down through into that mudland area. to get to those two areas, and once again, the quality of the water would not be there. But I have met with the town supervisor for the town of Elba, and they have the water line right there along the trench that they just put in a year ago. And she seemed receptive to the fact that if we put in the infrastructure for water, that we could tap into there, and those people there would be out-of-district users. So these are the different things that I have them looking at this time to see what we can do. According to them, road development is looking at much larger projects rather than little ones like we've been doing. They've been little miniature projects, basically, with all these little water districts. So they are putting that all together, and in the near future, they will be contacting us to give us what their suggestions are. And that's on Water District 11, which will be the final water district. Next, we have Water Districts 2, 3, and 4, refinance. That I just received yesterday. And as you have it there, I sent it out to everybody when I received it yesterday. It's from John Alessi, who is one of the partners in Hodgson Russ. They have handled our bonds for this town for several decades now. So they were working with,
Jeff Smith is the one.
Jeff Smith from, what finance,
Oh, I can't think.
Municipal Solutions.
Yeah.
So Municipal Solutions worked up the original, they're the ones we had contacted, they sent it over to Hodgson Russ, and they put together everything, corrected a couple of things, and have the numbers. So, in order for us to proceed with this, we need to have a resolution. And he gave us I think it's a 4-page resolution with all the whereases and section numbers. Hopefully you've read them over. Basically, it's nothing different than just a formality. 3, 4, 5. It's 6 pages long. And it talks about each. The reason for that is because it talks about Water District 2. It talks about Water District 3, it talks about Water District 4, and the bonds. What was originally put out there, the first bond, and what would happen with it under these circumstances. So, a refunding bond resolution dated February 10th, 2021, authorizing the issuance of refunding bonds in an aggregate principal amount not to exceed $335,000 of the town of Barre, Orleans County, New York, pursuant to the local finance law and providing for other matters in relation thereto. And like I said, it talks about all the different water districts and what will take place there. And then at the very end, section 21, this resolution shall take effect immediately upon its adoption. Any questions on this at all? We've talked about this last couple of months.
Let everybody know it's got way later when we were trying to find the correct paperwork for them. And they, Jeff Smith came over here last week and went through the paperwork and found what was necessary, and we faxed it all over to him, so we should be in good shape right now.
Definitely.
Sean, this is Lance. The only question I have is, how is this going to be reflected in the tax bills on the assessments for people in those districts? I assume there has to be a recalculation, correct?
Yes. Yeah, there will have to be a recalculation for them. They will see a savings in their taxes because there'll be less amount being taken out of from each taxpayer in that water district.
Well, I think one of the districts, Lance, they'll be paid off 2 years in advance with it.
But Lance's question was about getting it,
I didn't think there was gonna be any change in the amount.
there'll be some changes, yes. That one water district, I think it's Water District 2, will be paid off 2 years early. I don't think there's gonna be very much of a change, but Water Districts 3 and 4, there will be more so of a change in their tax bill. I mean, it's gonna be like $40 or $50 a year difference for them. I remember reading that in here somewhere. Was it this sheet or?
Is that something that Barry then goes through and, or Maureen, who calculates?
Well, it starts with how much the debt payment's gonna be
Right.
for the coming year, and so that amount has to be known, and then it's divided by the parcels. So every year, it changes a little bit,
Okay,
and it should theoretically go down each year.
right,
So it's, at that point is when it'll be refigured.
okay.
It'll just be less than what it would have been.
On the
So my
sheet,
question, whose task was doing that? What entity is tasked with doing that?
Well, it's a combination, because it starts with Shelby and how much the debt payment's going to be.
that Shelby Bennett from EFPR.
Right, once we know what that's gonna be, then it's, I believe it's Barry then, because that's how it's on the tax bills.
Okay.
And on the debt service sheets that I had sent to you, that they had sent to me yesterday, it shows the annual savings each year per taxpayer. And like here in Water District 2, it's $19.56 first year, $4.50 following year, $13.11. It's not a great amount, but they do have a tax savings. And then, like we said, it will be paid off a few years prior to when it should have been paid off. So, you know, instead of having a couple more years of several $100s added to their tax bill, they're going to have $0 because of the water levy. Water District 3, same thing. Well, theirs is more like $10 to $14. And Water District 4 ranges anywhere from like $5 to $20. It varies each year.
Can you just share with everybody who's listening or on what the total amount to the resident savings for those water districts are, just so they can see that it really is a fiscally responsible thing that we're doing?
Well, the overall savings, for all three water districts would be $54,869.08 by going with a lower interest rate on these bonds. So that'll save overall everybody in those water districts.
I'll need those
I sent you those.
on the email.
Yeah. Okay, so if I could hear a motion to accept these.
So moved.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So carried. Maureen, I will give this one to you because I also corrected, we need to have this second, or filled out here. But you got it electronically, but also it shows where the corrections,
Okay,
okay?
so make the corrections and then
Yes,
sign vote.
as John had requested, so I'll give that one to you so you have it. Okay. Next, county hazard mitigation plan. This is something we've been working on for over a year now. The county had requested this, it's as per the state. The hazard mitigation is in what if we have a major flood? What if tornado rips through the center of the county? What if we have a major ice storm? So in those kind of hazards, what would we as a county do? So I worked on this, received info from Dale Brooks as well as from Shelley Dale Hall on some of the areas that I knew nothing about, and they did. Put together the package, there was like 8 components to it, and sent it into the county. All municipalities in the county had to submit the same package. It has been completed and upcoming. They're going to review the draft at a meeting of their planning partnership. The meeting will be held from 6 to 7:30 p.m. on February 17th, 2021. It'll be held via webinar. It says, visit the calendar on the project website for the link. So you need to go into the Orleans County and well, what I have here is orleans-county.com/hazard-mitigation-plan/ once again. And of course, it starts with https:// orleans-county-hazard-mitigation-plan/ You'll be able to find the link if you go to the planning board on the county website. It will be there as well. It'll probably be a lot easier for you. That is on February 17th from 6 to 7:30. For those that might want to tune in and hear about the mitigation plan. Once they have this webinar, it's open to the general public. This will be sent on to FEMA. Okay, COVID employee sick days. Yesterday, during the county meeting that we have every Tuesday, Jack Welch brought up the fact that the governor signed into law that employees that have to be quarantined because of being exposed or they test positive are to receive their pay, not sick pay. How we go about that is our own prerogative. Now, according to the state, that's up to a maximum 3 times per person. So let's say Sean Poe gets exposed, I'm home for 10 days, I get my regular pay. I test positive, I'm home for 10 days, I get my regular pay. I get a 3rd time I test positive, I get my regular pay. Strike 4, you're done. So what I would like to see here, this is me speaking, that for the COVID employee sick days, or I shouldn't use the word sick days, I guess, but what we would have or request is that when they test positive, that we receive a letter of verification from the county, pointing out that they have tested positive, and therefore we will give them their regular pay, not deduct sick days from them. So that's what I would like to see. That's me speaking once again, like I said, open to discussion.
So one of the things that, also if they, have to quarantine because of contact, that the same thing that we received a letter from the health department saying that that is the scenario.
You know, if you get in contact, if they do, what is it, a
If you
trace?
are contact traced, that information goes to the state. And the state is supposed to send you, when you're released, an email that says you were contact traced, that you were quarantined.
Okay, but there's
But
But it
documentation.
comes from the state,
Okay.
not from the health department.
Okay, well, as long, like, just documentation, what I'm saying is that just documentation that they were supposed to be quarantined for that time period.
Yeah, and I'm, like I said, I'm just looking for documentation just to verify it,
Right.
and that's all I'm requesting.
Is that, I just want to make sure that I understand this right. It's a maximum of 3 times per year, or just maximum of 3 times?
Just said 3 times,
Okay.
period. According to what Jack said, it was just 3 times, period. And the way he put it, first time could be because of contact, but then he said the second and the third time, testing positive. So to me, it's either or, because you could test positive the first time, second time, it may be because of contact and contact tracing. So to me, so long as there's documentation, whether it's from the state or from the county health department, they provide documentation, then they would get regular pay, not sick pay. And that's just for COVID. Pandemic,
During the pandemic,
during the pandemic.
because after that, you would have the option of the injection, the shot, like a flu shot.
Mhm.
I believe it'll stick around.
Okay,
And how are we gonna distribute this to all the employees so they know?
the only ones we really truly need to worry about are the guys out in the garage. So, if we approve this, have a motion, and we approve it tonight, then I'll make sure, well, Dale's online, he can hear. And Dale can spread the word to the other guys.
Do we want to just have it in writing, just so they can't say, oh, well, I never, you know what I mean? Just like,
Yeah.
even like an email, something that's traceable, so that then it's like, it can't be, well, I didn't hear, you know.
Maureen can put together something, and it can be posted over there in Dale's office.
But Sean, I think it's when you have mandatory quarantine, right?
Yes.
No, you can't just say, oh, well, testing positive is easy to verify, but in terms of contact tracing, this has to be a quarantine that's imposed, not
Right.
self-imposed.
Right.
That's my belief. Jack did not say that in the meeting yesterday. He just said on the second and third, he referred to testing positive. So he did not say anything about the contact. And as I said, so long as there's documentation, whether it's from the state or from the county, then we would give them regular pay. Not where, if there's a possibility you came in contact with somebody, you might have it, you self-impose, the county doesn't know anything about it, nor the state, there's no documentation. So therefore,
It has to be a mandatory quarantine situation. As I said, with testing positive, that's a no-brainer, but I'm just talking about the other aspect of it, where we're talking about contact tracing.
okay,
Yeah.
we'll put that in there about mandatory,
Okay, we can work on the wording.
yeah. Okay. Maureen was just questioning here that maybe we need to have them go back and get a second test to prove that they are tested negative.
No, because they shed. They still shed.
Right,
They
but-
still shed.
They can
I'm
test-
wondering, I'm
They
thinking
can
of my
test
dog.
positive for quite a while
Up to
after
3
they're,
months.
yeah.
Yeah.
But they can't spread, they aren't supposed to be
They
able
can't
to spread.
spread, but they can still test positive.
It's, as long as it's a certain number of days after they're symptom-free. So as soon as they're symptom-free, then they can return to work, or like as soon as, it's the health department, I don't know the specific time
I
frame.
believe it's 14 days.
I thought they dropped it to
Maybe
10.
they dropped it
But
to
it's-
10.
Yeah, so
I'm
it's,
sorry,
John,
yes.
this is Dale.
yeah, he's,
Direct word from the health department is the 6 through 8 days from the first signs of symptoms, you are contagious. After that, you are not contagious, but you can still carry the virus for 90 days.
I wonder if that's true of the new variants, though.
Who knows?
Well, why don't you, Sean, give Jack a call, get a clarification on some of this, then we'll put something together.
But how about, well, like I said, for verification, they need to have
No, I
positive
agree with that,
verification.
and I'm getting
But get the wording
the
so that,
wording so that we know what the county is talking about, that's all.
okay. I'll write Jack tomorrow.
If your contact traced the second time, you have to use your sick time.
yeah, I was gonna say, I don't know if that's just a state thing or.
If we need that clarified. Maybe it's the school.
I'm not sure if it's-
Okay, well, do we have a motion then for us for the verification, positive verification that they have tested positive or that they
They have
are
to test.
mandatory quarantine?
I'll make that motion.
Do I hear a second on that?
I'll say.
And all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, so carried. Okay. Next thing I have, and I sent this to everyone last week, I believe. Has to do with, once again, we come back, as we just had with water districts 2, 3, and 4. You have seen John Alessi's name on there from Hodgson Russ. He is one of the partners in that firm, and they have handled our finances on the bonds for, like I said, decades. They have an attorney in their firm, his last name is Spitzer, and the Orleans Solar Project that is planned, or that they're planning on, if everything goes well, would be down the southwest corner of Barre and in the southeast corner of Shelby. They would like to hire, that company would like to hire Spitzer to represent them, which means he'd be sitting across the table from us in negotiating all the different aspects of this solar project. Now, it's the same firm, but two completely separate issues. So the question that Mr. Alessi is requesting is, do we feel that there would be a conflict of interest? That Mr. Spitzer would be sitting across the table from us representing Orleans Solar, but yet they still handle our finances with bonds and everything. Spitzer has nothing to do with anything that goes on in this town, but he would be, like I said, hired by Orleans Solar and their parent company.
Sean, this is Dwight Kania. Does Spitzer have involvement with the IDA for Orleans County?
No, I do not believe so. He was at the table when we were talking the pilot for Heritage Wind, but he was representing the school districts of Hopefield, Alabama, as well as Albion. But I do not believe he has anything to do with the IDA.
Okay.
Lance, can you answer that better?
I think that's accurate.
So,
If, just, like, if we said that we did feel like it was a conflict, what would we have to go find a different,
they would have to
Bond
find another
counsel?
attorney, yes.
or they would have, the solar would have to find another attorney?
The solar company would have to find another attorney. They wanted to have an attorney, local representation. They wanted an attorney that's right here, local, to handle their part of the project.
So, so you're saying though that then with the 94C project, that there would be no HCA or pilot discussions, that he wouldn't be involved in that?
Oh, yes, there will be.
It would be.
So
He would be, he'd be involved, but he's representing them at the table.
right, to the IDA, which would be, right, like, the IDA is who facilitates
Yes,
that conversation, so
Yes.
he would be,
he would be at the table, but he would be there as representing the solar company. He's not representing IDA, he's not representing the town of Barre or the town of Shelby. He's there solely just for the solar project. That company.
okay.
And would the other people in that same firm, would they be representing us at the same table?
No. No, our representation at the table for 94C with Orleans Solar is Dwight Cognac here from, Kenoff Shaw, as well as Kathy Spencer from LaPella and Lance Mark. Those are our representatives for the 94C.
I guess I would be curious as Dwight, what your thoughts are.
I guess in my opinion, if he has no involvement, if Hudson Russ has no involvement with the IDA, they're just a bond counsel, I wouldn't see an issue there.
Lance, your general feeling?
Well, I agree with Dwight, although I've had some past dealings with Mr. Spitzer, which I won't say are exactly favorable in terms of some of his behavior. So I'd rather, I guess I'd rather defer to the town board on this. He's a knowledgeable person, there's no question about it. I can go into some depth if you want, explain what the circumstances were.
So, Lance, do you feel like it could potentially be a negative for the town if he were to represent them, that it could potentially cause,
I don't really, not for the town. It was private litigation where he was representing another town against my client, and let's just say I found his positions to be extremely inconsistent at different points in time along litigation. I don't know that he would, since we've dealt with him before on the pilot negotiations we've had so far with Heritage, I think he would be a straight shooter.
Any other?
And I guess, this is White again, I think I've had some experience with Mr. Spitzer where he's represented developers, Mr. Hodgson, Russ smaller projects in southern tier. I have found him to be fine to deal with. I think they have, he represents the IDA in Allegheny County, and I think he has at least some sympathies for the municipalities. Whether that would translate considerably, I don't know, but for what it's worth.
Well, if these two people don't think there's gonna be a problem, I don't see why not.
Isn't this part of the water district 234?
The only thing I do is if we're dealing with him, keep in mind what has been said, and if it starts getting that way, you just make it known to him.
Bond,
Right, if there will be conflicts where it won't necessarily, like that our best interest won't be the forefront, right?
the only way it would affect us is if we feel that Hodgson Russ cannot or would not do their job for the town insofar as the bond issues are concerned.
Right.
That's about it there. Like I said, it's two separate entities altogether, just under the same umbrella.
I mean, just so it's clear, I mean, what I expressed was really a matter of personal bias. I can't say that it's a matter of necessarily professional bias, or that he's, that he would do anything that would deliberately undermine the town of Barre. I don't believe that.
And in the waiver, it would say like that, he's kind of shielded from our, like there's not gonna be cross information, he's not gonna be sitting at a table discussing our bonds and then going and, that it will be, like that's clear in it will be a separate component altogether, that there won't be knowledge of the bond project by Spitzer.
I do not think, especially in knowing John Alessi, and Lance, you know him well, and a number of other people I've spoken with about Mr. Alessi, I do believe he's well above board and he would not allow something like that to occur.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I would agree with that.
So what are you gonna have?
Do you have the actual waiver, just out of curiosity? Just because I got the email about it, but I didn't see a waiver.
There is no actual waiver itself, it's just asking how we felt about there, if there would be a conflict of resolution.
Well, knowing the Hodgson firm, I'm sure that they would probably, have some kind of confirmatory letter that you might have to sign.
Okay,
To cover their areas.
then I can write to John tomorrow and ask him to please forward a document to us. That's supposedly if we approve this tonight, stating that there would be no conflict of interest, that Mr. Spitzer will not be involved with any other town business through Hodgson Russ. Or, okay, Lance?
Yeah, essentially what you're doing is you're waiving any conflict of interest, you're waiving any appearance of impropriety. But as I said, I think you're right. So they know that they have to compartmentalize what they do for the town of Barre from what they do for the solar project.
Okay. Okay, so do I hear a motion saying that, I don't know, do we do a motion on it? Allowing,
Yeah, it would be a motion.
okay,
Could we request a waiver and like just see what it would say before we, I think that it's something that we'd be very open to. I just want to, I wouldn't want to just say that, yeah, we're saying that there's no conflict of interest, and then, I don't know, somehow down the road that they were, just talking, I don't know,
how about if we make a motion that we will accept Orleans Solar hiring Mr. Spitzer to represent them based on the appropriate language of a waiver from Hodgson Russ. And as soon as I get a copy of that, before I do any signing on it,
yeah.
I'll send it out to everybody so everybody can read and give me their 2 cents. How's that sound?
That sounds good.
Yeah, I think we could do all right. We have dealt with him before with the wind. we didn't really have any problem with it. So,
I'll make that motion however you word it. I'm not sure how you word it.
Okay. Do I hear a second?
I'll second
Tom, all in favor?
it. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So carried. Okay. Next, COBA. Tom's been attending the meetings, because I've been out of town here, so I have not been able to attend them with him. So at the last meeting, Tom said that there were 3 options that came up, and that is in trying to keep an ambulance service here in central Orleans County. So Tom, if you could please let us know what the story is.
All right, sometime last year, COBA contacted the towns and the ambulance service that they have, stating that they were looking for some financial help because they weren't getting the revenues in that they needed to keep in operation. So instead of doing it individually by each town, we formed a committee with the 4 towns, which is Albion, Barre, Carlton, and Gaines. So we've met 3 or 4 times to go over things and trying to look at all options. We had COBA come in and give us an overview of what they were looking for, and looking somewhat for a contract with the municipalities where we would be able to financially help them in some ways. Things have changed for them from when COBA was first set up. It was an all-volunteer unit, and as time has gone on to perform the services that they need, they have hired staff on the payroll at this time, along with the volunteers. So we asked them if they could, and one of the things that's bothering and the revenue's cut down on is they'll take an ambulance call, and the insurance company for that person or the victim sends the check back to that family, and they're supposed to then reimburse COBA for the service. And there's a lot of them that are not doing that, so they aren't getting the revenue in that they should be getting. So we'd asked them what type of contract they would look at, and their attorney was with them at that meeting, and he put together a contract, and a copy was sent to Albion Town Supervisor Dick Remley, and we've been meeting in the town of Albion office going over this. The contract was looked over and needed, a little further discussion on what's happening and other options, and it came up at our last meeting that maybe we have more than one option to look at. Right now, we look at 3 of them. One would be for contract with COBA. Another option would be set up an ambulance district in each one of the towns and have COBA, the contractor, run the ambulance service here. And what would happen in the district forming, it would be similar to what our fire districts are now. Would be put onto your tax base. So taxpayers in the town of Barre would be paying whatever they need, and the town board would have nothing to do with setting the fee. It would all be up to the personnel of the ambulance service. So we looked at that, and then somebody said, well, what about outside areas or municipalities that are close by with us? What are they doing? So we're going to look into that. And what that is a contract with an ambulance service. There is no cost to the towns. And they're going to try for our next meeting, which is next week, I believe, to have somebody from one of those agencies come in and explain to us what services and what is required, so we've got some knowledge on that. So we're still in the process of trying to work something out with COBA the best that we can. And it's gonna take a little while to do. If anybody really has any ideas of how we can do this and help them out, if you want to send a note into our website at the town here or to the supervisor, and we take those down and we can discuss them.
The one thing that Tom and I have talked about with this, the one ideal advantage of having COBA is response time. And they're located centrally for the central part of Orleans County. Whereas if we go with an outside ambulance service, like Monroe Ambulance, or I can't remember the other ones, AM something out of Monroe County, response time could be very detrimental to the injured person.
That would be one of the main things we look at when they offer their service, of where they're gonna be located. I know that, I think it's Murray, which is Holly over there, the ambulance service. Monroe, I'm sorry. The service is down, and I think they have a staging area on the ridge on the west side of Blackboard. So we'd have to look into that, and I'm sure there's many other questions that people would have at that meeting to bring up and that we need to look at.
And definitely, we would insist on having a satellite station here for faster response times to any kind of emergency calls.
Yeah, I know when I was getting my mail today, and Mercy Flight came tearing down through with their ambulance to the village. They must have been covering too for somebody.
If they were to set up like the fire department and do it that way in Texas, would it depend on the number of calls that they have in our area?
The contract that they showed us was a proportion of the number of calls that would be for the town of Barre. We would pay X number of dollars for the service, Elwood would pay something else. And so if you do that, I'm sure that it would be all back into a percentage of service that is here. And don't have exact figures on it. I've got a copy of the contract if anybody wants to look at it, they're welcome to.
And based on those numbers from previous meetings that we had, of the 4 municipalities, we've had the least number of calls out of all 4 municipalities, so our percentage would be lower, but it's still a big chunk of change.
Yes, it is.
And the other thing is, you have no control over how much they per thousand put onto the tax base. And they can change that every year, we couldn't do a thing about it.
Okay, so you got some idea what's going on there with COBA. They're sinking right now, but I don't see where we're going to be financially having to support them, which I wish we could do something for them, but I don't see giving them thousands and thousands of dollars. Whether it's us, the town directly, or us as taxpayers. Okay, next. As you all know, we did, and I did scan this and send you copies of it. And that is at the County Planning Board. The Orleans County Planning Board held an official meeting on January 28, 2021. At that time, the County Planning Board completed its review of the above captioned zoning referral and voted its approval. The County Planning Board report is enclosed. Your town board is free to take final action either to approve or disapprove this proposal. In either case, the zoning enabling laws require that you notify the County Planning Board in writing within 30 days of your board's decision. A notice of final action form is enclosed for that purpose. So the County Planning Board did, their recommendation is approval. So what we sent them, they approved. Their comments, the law imposes many technical requirements, which is not necessarily unexpected. or surprising in light of the potential impacts that WECS can have upon the community. At the same time, it would not be unusual for further changes to be discussed over time, some of which may be enacted and others not. It is often useful to think of land use policy making as the pursuit of perfection without ever realizing it. Since the proposed law is a policy-making endeavor, the county planning board routinely defers to the will of the local governing body. Lastly, the town fairly acknowledges in its inconsistency section that New York State may preempt this law pursuant to Article 10 of New York State Public Service Law and Section 94C of the New York State Executive Law. In fact, the case could be made that the latter is even more hostile than Article 10 to the long-standing principle of home rule in land use regulation. Okay, so basically, they have asked us, notice of final action, zoning referral, request for amendment to zoning text, proposed wind law revision. They have approved what we have sent them. And what we need to do then is make a recommendation whether we agree or we overrule the planning board recommendation.
Can I ask some questions quick before we get too much farther?
Go ahead.
In the referral, there was a clean version and a highlighted version of our proposed wind law. And the highlighted version had different colors in it. Was there anything shared about what those colors represented, or was it just set as is?
No, just sent as is, and it was just to catch their attention as to changes that have been made to the law versus the original one.
Oh, okay, so I reviewed that because it was sent, you sent it to us on Monday, and the meeting was on Thursday. And there were the two different wind resolutions, or the proposed wind laws, they were different. The highlighted version and the clean copy were not the same law. They were actually different law. Like there were changes made to the highlighted one that weren't incorporated into the final version. And I did reach out to Jim Bensley prior to and said, hey, just want to let you know there's some inconsistencies. And he did not read my email or anyone else's. He was not able to review the wind law, and I have an email from him today. I don't know if you guys know, but both county planners, so it was solely him as a director. There were no planners that were present. And he said, as I informed the county planning board chairman just prior to the last month's meeting, I was not able to read input and incorporate it into my recommendations. I would have needed to receive the information much sooner. Then it talks about the applicants needing to submit the documents at least 1 week prior. And that he's presently lacking 100% of his professional planning staff as we wait for new recruits and he continues to work on other components. And that document means that once we make a decision, it's not saying that we have to make a decision within 30 days of receiving it. It's just saying that once we make a decision, we have 30 days to submit it to the county. And I think that we have some homework and back work to do before we can move forward.
And let me get this straight too. You reached out on behalf of the town board.
No, I did not reach out on behalf of the town board.
Well,
I did not reach out on behalf of the town board.
okay. Okay, it's kind of like, never mind. I think enough said.
Kind of like, do you want to?
Enough said. Not getting in a hissy fit match right now. Okay, so with this, on this law, proposed wind law revision, what we had sent to them, the clean copy, which was the final copy, of which I also sent to you today, with those couple of changes. I had sent it another copy to you on this past Monday. Yeah, that was a clean copy with some changes, corrections made, and,
With a cover letter on it, Sean?
yeah. And then Lance corrected those, remember the one from Andrea Reback?
Right.
That had been corrected, as well as the very beginning where it said, Town Law number 3 of 2020. That was corrected, so it reads Town Law 1 of 2021, so we got that cleaned up. Lance cleaned it all up for us, which, insofar as the content of the law itself, that was just pagination and those couple of things at the top of the first page. Does not deter or take away from the proposed wind law change at all.
How do you know which proposed law the county was looking at? Do you think that they were looking at the highlighted version, which was first, or do you think that they were looking at the clean version, which was put in second? Which would they have been approving?
More,
Because there's pretty significant differences between the two of them.
Lance, correct me if I'm wrong, the highlighted one was items that were removed, was it? Okay, Lance must have taken a little walk real quick. The highlighted one, I can't remember exactly how we worded when we sent it in. Because I sent everything. I had Lee send it, the whole package. It was a big package. Sent them everything, including John Hall's recommendation or his results of his research. So everything got sent to the county. And it is, as you know, the second time around, we just added more documents.
And changes.
And a couple of changes in there as well, yes. Which was outlined in the seeker that was attached, part 1 there.
But even that was incorrect. There was documents in there, it was saying that we were changing the shadow flicker to 30 hours. We weren't. It remained at 25 hours. It was saying that and these are things that I've brought up. This isn't the first time that I'm bringing this up. These were concerns with the errors and the inconsistencies that our town planning board, when we sat down, they went through that narrative and used that as these are the major changes that are being made, and that wasn't, it wasn't correct then, and I mentioned it then and said we need to correct this before we can move on, and I was told no, we don't. And then also, we changed the Met Tower from 3 years to maximum of 10 years, and that wasn't included in the narrative.
With yearly corrections, a yearly update.
Right, but that wasn't included in the narrative.
Which copy are you talking about, Harry? Because I got a couple copies, and those were addressed in here, and the last one that I had was not with the cover page, and I discussed that.
I will forward you all right now, I did a review, in the referral that was sent to the county and approved by the county, the narrative had that we were going to be doing a change from 25 hours to 30 hours. That's not correct. We decided to go back to the 25 hours. The narrative also said, shared, let me see here if I can pull up those other components quick. It didn't include the school district of Medina. It had, hold on here.
School District of Medina.
Medina, we aren't even in Medina.
No.
The town of Barre includes the school districts that are part of the town of Barre. So there are.
Oh, you mean insofar as the
Town of
law
Barre-
is concerned, yes.
Yes, absolutely.
All right.
Okay. So
have, what, 2, 4, 5 school districts, right? 5.
Yeah, so not all of the school districts were included. On page 69 of the referral in the seeker narrative, section 350-10310 requires, about the shadow flicker, it says that it's 30 hours. The proposed law that we actually proposed was 25 hours annually, not 30 hours. It's contradictory, the narrative is contradictory to what's being put out. The omission of the temporary Met Tower information, section 350-109 was not included in secret narrative as being proposed, which is the inconsistency section that Mr. Bensley did review. And then, let's see here. And then the other component is that there were 2 different versions of the wind law that was sent in. So the top version has components like the setbacks are different in the top version compared to the first version, the highlighted version compared to the second version.
Well, I'm sorry that if the county put their rubber stamp of approval on this, and they did not do their due diligence, where they could have gone through and did the same thing you have done, and what I have done in the past, where I've sat with 2 different ones, and I've gone page by page and looked at them, then I'm sorry that they didn't do that.
Me too, but Mr. Bensley said at the beginning that he did not have the opportunity. And what, last month at our meeting.
But he's got many members on that board of which he sent those copies to, did he not?
Who rely, I don't know the
Did
specific.
he not?
You tell me.
I don't know, you're telling me everything like you were there. So my question is, if he sent it out to all his board members so they could take a look at it, they should have done their due diligence as well. Are you saying that everybody on that board doesn't look at any stuff and they just, we agree with you, Jim?
You can ask them that. I am not them, and I'm not gonna speak on their behalf. I know that there are times when we get inundated with a lot of information, and I don't know if everyone on this town board is able to review everything as thoroughly as we would like to, just as, as he is openly admitting that he wasn't able to review everything like he would like to. And in his email, and I think that, I know, Lance, last month you mentioned about your concern for an Article 78. And I realized after the fact that maybe everyone isn't familiar with what that means and what that would mean for our town. Could you explain that?
Well, Article 78 is a proceeding where they would attempt to nullify the town board action, assuming the town board passes the amendments. They would claim that there was the result was arbitrary and capricious, or the result of something unlawful. Anybody can bring an Article 7. I shouldn't say anybody, but anybody who feels that they're aggrieved. But from my standpoint, the county planning board had it. They considered it. Their recommendation is their recommendation.
And so now I'm bringing to light and I'm sharing with my fellow town board members that what they reviewed was different. There were 2 different versions. And the question is which of those 2, and I did ask him, which of those 2 were reviewed? Which was the wind ordinance that they actually reviewed? Which version?
And what was his answer to it?
He said that he would email me back tomorrow.
Okay. Once again, going back, do we accept their approval or do we not accept their approval?
Wait, by accepting their approval, you're approving the wind ordinance.
No, we have to approve the wind ordinance.
We don't
This
have,
is just approving what they, they've sent an approval, we do an approval.
we don't need to, that's, my understanding is that that's not necessary. What we would do is, what they're asking for is what action we take on the wind ordinance after we make that decision. They're not saying we have to submit that to them 30 days after we make the decision. There's no timeline as to when we have to make a decision and respond back to them.
Your town board is free to take final action either to approve or disapprove this proposal.
Right, the wind ordinance is
This
the
proposal, the one that the county approved. In either case, the zoning enabling laws require that you notify the county planning board in writing within 30 days of your board's decision. Are we approving or disapproving this county ordinance, or only approval?
Lance, were you,
And the way this works is if there were recommendations with conditions, if the town board didn't want to accept those recommendations with conditions, so that would require a supermajority of the board members to go against what the county planning board has said. Otherwise, it's just a simple majority that accepts their recommendation, which is the recommendation is approval, and then you go from there.
I personally don't think that we can approve it because we don't know which approval it's for. We don't know if it's for the first version or the second version that was sent to them.
Or from the first time it was sent to them, or the second time it was sent to them?
Yeah,
Well, wasn't there was a smooth copy sent to them.
Yes, there was.
right, that's
It
a,
was a clean copy, so.
The clean copy was the final copy at that time, yes.
I would think that's what their action is based on.
you know that for sure. Because if we submitted to a highlighted, I mean, my understanding would be a highlighted version would be the changes that were made, that there should be two of the same exact copies. One is the one saying that these are the changes that have been made, highlighting them so that it's easier to look through and identify those changes. And one is the clean version that is the same thing. There should not be differences between those two that were submitted. That's on us.
Well, first of all, all I know is there was a highlighted copy of the proposed wind law. To my knowledge, it contained all the changes that went into the smooth copy. And if the county planning board had any question about that, they could have certainly come back to the town and said, we question this, we don't think we have, the full documentation that we need in order to act on it, but they did.
Unless they didn't have the time or the resources, as Jim stated at the beginning of that meeting in person that I believe you were both listening in on, and also that he reiterated in his email to me, that he did not have the opportunity. So if you don't have a lot of time, you're probably going to look at the highlighted version, but the reality is we don't know.
And they could have tabled it just as
The reality is
you.
they took the action and
They
approved
can't-
it. That's the
they can't
reality.
table it.
Yes.
Everything else is basically anecdotal and something that somebody said that may or may not have even been authorized by the county planning board to say.
Lance, so they took a action on a document, so you can say that this will stand up if an Article 78, or if a lawsuit is brought up against our town or against us as individual town board members in regards to this referral that was submitted, that you can say that it's gonna be clear cut. There's gonna be a clear cut answer on that that's gonna be in the town's interest.
Okay. What I would like to hear then is, will we have a resolution on this? A motion, I mean.
I move to disapprove the county's proposed wind law changes approval letter because there were 2 different wind ordinance proposed to them.
And you're saying that they did not do their due diligence.
I'm saying that we don't know which, if you're asking for a motion, we don't know which of those versions they were looking at.
Is there a second on Carrie's motion? There is no second on Carrie's motion. We can make another motion? Okay,
That failed due to no
that
second.
failed, there was no second. Do I hear another motion?
I'll make a motion that we accept the county's
Recommendation.
recommendation.
Do I hear a second on that?
I will second that.
Margaret, second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
So carried. Okay. Next one item, emergency water plan, emergency plan for water of the town of Barre, Water Administrative Authority. Dale, you still on the line or are you falling asleep?
No, I'm still here. Barely.
Okay, sir, would you like to explain this? And we will have to make a motion on accepting this, so you can send it to the county, I assume.
You are correct. It's a, I don't want to say a generic water plan that everybody submits. It's just a matter of information. It's not a matter of approving it. It's a matter of acknowledging that you accepted it, or that you've seen it.
Oh, okay. This Dale had given to me back at the last board meeting, which I did not feel that everybody had a sufficient time to look at it, but I mailed it out to all the board members and asked you to look it over. So you've had it for about a month. Are there any questions for Dale on this? I had some that I already spoke with Dale about, and they have been taken care of. My questions have been taken care of. Okay, then none being asked of Dale, then basically, yes, we have received this from Dale, and there are no questions to it. So Dale, you've done an awesome job. It sounds so bad. We'll have to find another project for you.
No, I got enough.
Okay, sir. Right, you got your hand up like,
Yeah, we need the motion on it in a second.
oh, Bill said we didn't need one, really.
No,
We need a
Well,
motion saying that we have
that it's been
received this.
submitted, correct.
Okay,
You are accepting the submission of the emergency water plan.
okay.
That's going on record saying to the world that you all have seen it.
I'll make that motion.
Second,
I'll second
in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So carried. Okay, next. During our workshop, unfortunately, had to get cut short because the planning board had a workshop immediately, well, an hour and a half after we started our workshop. So we had to cut it short. So as a result, we got through to like the first 14 or 15 pages or something like that. I believe where we stopped and Carrie was explaining, or did we get?
It was page 11, or like page, I think it was, we got all the way through page 11, we're on page 12, I believe.
I thought we were
Around
up,
14.
I thought we were starting on 14 when we left, it on my computer.
Did I, is that what,
On the computer, yeah. What was the document? Which one is it?
hold on, it was, one that, from Dr. McKenna.
I'm sorry, you mumbled, I couldn't.
It was
hear.
from Dr. McKenna,
Okay, that's the one I have in my hand where I thought we had to continue with.
okay.
Because you were at that time explaining the ice throw equation from an engineer.
Yes. And I thought that we were going to be continuing this at the March 1st workshop.
Unfortunately, we have not done anything to speak of on the AES project, which is the Baird Solar Project. And what I would like to have is that we will concentrate at that time on the Baird project. I will be getting all that documentation out to everybody for you to take a look at. And at our March 1st workshop, I'll also have at that time Labella representative. I'll also have Adam, I can't think of Adam's last name, from AES. He will be on the line as well, so that if you would please look over the documentation. Any questions you have, Adam would like to have them up front so that he can get the documentation or the responses to those questions so that we can move through the whole process a little bit easier.
Did we get the questions back from, that we had before about the seeker? The part one.
Questions about what?
The seeker for the AES, for the Baird project, when we were going through that, we had questions
I'll have
back
to
in
take a look.
November, I think it was, that they
Yeah.
were gonna be getting back to us, and I hadn't heard anything after that.
I'll have to take a look. That project took a back seat on my desk there for a while. So I'll get all that information out to you. I'll take a look at that part one of the seeker. We also have part 2 and 3 of the seeker that they had produced. And we're gonna have to go through that as well. Remember, it's a workshop. We do not make any definitive decisions at that time. It's just for discussion. We will make those decisions at our board meeting on the 10th of March. Okay. Now, and thank you, Carrie. I haven't looked at them yet because you sent them just before our board meeting tonight, but your responses to a lot of these comments here, you put your comments or statements in there. So I have not had a chance to take a look at what you had written or where or anything else. Okay, whereabouts on here did we leave off? I know you talked about, you did your math on number 3C, A, B, C, yes.
Just
It's
a
a little
second.
hard to read on this copy.
Just trying to get to it.
Letter D, what are the New York State public health recommendations to be used as a minimum? And I had referred to what I had gotten from Mr. Pettit insofar as Niagara, Orleans, and Genesee County.
Right, okay, so I'm there now, sorry. Yeah, so we had left off that there was, the ice throw equation based on, the Avesta 5.6, just as used as a point of reference, because, it'd be 686 feet, I believe. I went through and did the calculations with 162 meter rotor diameter, a hub height of 125 meters, and a wind speed, which is their cutout speed. So this would be, as Sean pointed out, and I agree, the maximum ice throw, supposedly based on this equation from an engineer, and that would be 2,232.5 meters. And if you convert that to feet, it would be 7,324.48 feet, and that would be the maximum. But then I had done calculations, if you looked at a much lower wind speed, I think I chose like 12 or 13 meters per second, and we were still looking out over 3,000 feet for ice throw. which is significantly more than what our current setback is.
I question this formula primarily because the wind speed will always be greater than the velocity of the blades. So I really question about the wind speed. What's the relevance of the wind speed? What you want is the speed of the blades themselves. I can see the diameter, I can see the height off the ground, because that well, really. The
I mean, it's
hump
not my
height-
equation, it was an equation that was,
Right. I really question this equation altogether, and especially with the distance you were talking about. It really dumbfounds me on that one. I'm sure people love that word I used. Okay. And it's supposed to be from an engineer. I'd love to know who the engineer is. I'd love to have a discussion with this engineer. Okay. What are the New York State public health recommendations to be used as a minimum? Okay, and
and
as
I think, I had sent out to everyone, this was back when I did the initial, review of the wind ordinance, a letter from the New York State Health Department explaining that nuisance is a medical, or annoyance is a medical term. It's not just saying like, oh, that's annoying. It's actually, is a condition, that they're referencing. And, I wanted to just share that, I guess. And if you haven't read that, I would encourage looking at that again.
okay. What was it? Did you have a comment on this other than telling us to reread it? The comment should be towards the person who wrote this, Dr. McKenna.
Well, I think that it's important for us to also discuss this, and that it is something that we should make sure that we have all actually reviewed.
Well, as I said there, when I spoke with Mr. Pettit, insofar as Niagara, Orleans, and Genesee counties, they take a neutral stance on this.
Right.
In other words, they do not feel that there is any public health concerns here at this time.
The request was for the New York State Health.
Yeah.
Do we have any reports of this happening?
Yes. If you'd like video, there's even, reports. There was a whole seminar that was done on, the impacts of like infrasound on human health. There's a lot of different,
No, I'm talking about, do we have has anybody reported ice throw from one of these turbines?
who makes turbines, and there are, it has to be an issue because even the companies who create, industrial wind turbines are referencing and talking about ice shedding and ice throw. So it's not like it's a non-issue. There's another, I don't know, just a quick Google search and pulled up a whole bunch of different components. I don't know the validity of them, but one is from GE, one is a February 2019.
Well, aren't there components on these towers, when they get into that, they shut down automatically? So if they're building up with ice, they shut down.
They have a heating system in the blades themselves. The operators at the central command center can detect the vibration. If the heating element, like with these real cold temperatures we're getting right now, is not doing their job, and the ice is not being melted off the blades. They can feather the blades. They pick up on the sense of the vibration. That vibration, just like in your car there, causes wear and tear on the bearings. And therefore, what they want to do is shut them down, because that costs them quite a bit of money to bring staff and people in to do the work on them, to replace those bearings. So they just soon have them up and operating. So yes, there's a couple of fail-safe measurements in there from everything that I have read. Decommissioning costs in Minnesota in 2019 was $532,000 per turbine. That is a starting place to work, up to $1 million per turbine. Okay? Thank you. Why are we needing to go to 700 feet? Technology.
But the technology is also there to be shorter. The technology is not required, like, that's like saying that we have to purchase, that's like saying that in this town hall, we have to purchase the most up-to-date computers for our systems
It's not the
because
same.
but by saying that the technology is a reason.
How
for-
does the wind travel across the surface of the earth versus at a higher elevation?
what
Right at
is-
the surface.
But we're not looking
You
at
see a
it from,
windsock at an airport, is it set up near the trees,
we're not looking at
showing
it,
which way the wind is coming from for the aviators?
so you're looking at it from the perspective of the business and from the
No,
perspective.
I'm not looking at it from the, but
of
I'm
the-
looking at, I was an earth science teacher, I taught, meteorology was my favorite topic. So I'm looking at it from that perspective about wind layers. Have you ever laid out there and enjoyed the sky on a summer night, and you look up there and you see these different layers of clouds, and if you notice, they're going different directions at times.
And so when you're enjoying that night sky
Yeah.
and you are looking at a structure that you are saying that it's okay to have a structure that is 700 feet tall, when we have in our wind ordinance, or sorry, in our local law, we have specifics about signage and it having to look natural and it having to be a clear and nice sign, and yet we're saying that it's okay to have 700 feet tall because of technology, and we're not so much worried about the impact to the other components.
I don't
To,
see
like,
where the
aesthetics
difference
and
is whether we
to-
say, okay, put up a 500-foot tower, or we put up a 700-foot tower, because I'll guarantee nobody can tell the difference. I
I
guarantee it.
I
For the
think,
common layman, I'll guarantee they can't tell the difference between a 5 and a 700.
I can guarantee you that it will be seen from farther away and it will have a greater impact as a 700-foot tall tower than a 500-foot tall tower.
There's no argument there.
So you're saying that it's okay to have that additional impact. Now, what I'm asking for is that, that we do know that the technology is also there to have smaller industrial wind turbines. There is no requirement that we increase our height
If
limit
you
from
denude
500
the
to
land.
700 feet.
You know what I mean by denude the land?
I can't hear what you're saying.
I said, yes, I agree with you if you denude the land.
I don't know what denude.
Strip it, all the trees, everything, gone, boom. Yeah, then you can use a shorter tower, because then the wind blows easier across the surface.
How tall are the trees? Are you saying that 500 feet, okay? You're saying that there's wind shear
You
because
said
of
a
the
shorter tower, Carrie.
our
You said a
current-
shorter tower
I
could
would be
work.
fine, what I'm saying is I would be fine with leaving our height at 500 feet. Why do we have to go up to 700 feet?
Okay, what we're doing is right now, you and I are discussing our differences between 500 and 700 feet. That's not responding to the questions on here.
Okay, so how would you respond to this question?
I said it before. Technology, to get the maximum amount from the wind. Okay,
with the least amount of structures.
thank you, that's what I was just gonna say. 500 feet, we put in 60 structures. 700 feet, we put in 30 structures.
That's,
There's a difference.
that's, That's not.
So do you
we're-
want
we're-
more of the same thing or less?
We're actually, a couple of things there. One is that we don't know how many structures. This is our wind ordinance, so even with 700 feet for this, there could easily be 70, 80, 100 of these in the
Not
town
when
of
they're,
Barre.
not when they're told that the maximum they can have is 200 megawatts. And I'm just,
No, that's not true.
not our law, I'm talking about a specific case right now.
No, what I'm saying is that there could be other wind turbine companies that come in and say, well, look, you've already got them here, so we can put in another 40 or 50 in this town. So there isn't that, just the thought process or that logical thought of, well, if we have go taller, that we can have less in our community, isn't pertinent to our wind ordinance because it is for the entire town, and that doesn't necessarily ring true. Any company could come in and propose tomorrow to bring in another 30 industrial wind turbines, and then you're looking at 60, which is back to the number that we were referencing before. We're talking about our wind ordinance, not a specific project. And we don't have a limit to the number of wind turbines that would be able to be put in based on our current proposed law.
Okay. Okay, number 4, for myself, why do we need to increase shadow flicker to 30 hours when 25 hours was fine before? As you pointed out earlier, it's
Right.
still 25.
Right, that's what I have too.
5, the distance from residential structures is 2 times the tip height. That should be the same at the property line, so people do not lose the value of their property to use as they want. I have found documentation. Okay, I'm glad I found documentation from experts that say property lines are line setbacks should be at least 2,000 to 3,000 feet and half a mile from residential homes at a minimum. Okay?
And that also
We found
correlates,
documentation on other stuff too.
but that also correlates with the email and just from the director of the wind turbine facility in Texas that is currently the tallest in the nation, that said in an email that I forwarded to all of you, so you all have that as documentation, that downwind of a turbine, the setback should be at least half a mile.
And that, once again, from what I could read there, that was not a journaled,
That was an experience. That was an experienced
that was an
individual.
experienced person giving his perception, what his thoughts were on that, because he deals with it, yes.
So then we should
But if-
discount your
if
logical
Tom McCabe
experience.
was also working on the same one. His perception might be completely different. Documentation,
So, but what is being,
peer-reviewed
what is
documentation.
being said is that there is peer-reviewed documentation saying that the setback should be from property lines and should be 2,000 to 3,000 feet or half a mile from residential homes at a minimum. And if you want that peer-reviewed documentation, I believe that we've already sent it, but we can do it again.
Okay. The rest of them are general feelings. It's basically just thank you for your comments there. Number 8, I take offense to. The town board needs to do some legwork on their own and not expect Heritage Wind Energy as an answer. We're talking about the law change. You are listening to a harvester salesman, and if you do not understand the reference, ask a Barre agricultural resident. I'm sorry, I take exception to number 8, because I know that Lance, I know that Tom, and I know myself have been very involved with this for a number of years, and we have been doing our legwork. So that's his opinion, and I'm not going to address that at all. And then finally, in conclusion, he's opposed to the change of the wind ordinance and addition from the survey we did. I can conclude that at least 500, yeah, okay. Fine. Next
So
one.
I think that just in case, so if you use the survey statistics that they're looking at, that's 1,175 citizens of Barre who are opposed. Why take the burden of making that big?
You're going by a percentage that is hypothesized. 1,000 citizens. I'm sorry, that was hypothesized. That is not accurate, that is not correct, that is not true.
Well, then why don't we find
No.
out? Why
Let's
don't we
move
find
on.
out?
Questions
If
be
you're
answered
so
by the
confident
Barre
that
Town
that's true.
Board. Why would you make a decision that would affect so many people in so many ways with not allowing every person in Barre to be heard and make the decision without any fear of repercussions? You were elected to represent, not to make decisions of this magnitude without a ballot. The things that we all dislike about our New York State government officials, making broad sweeping changes without the citizens being considered for what they want, should not be done in Barre either. Okay, why would we change the existing wind ordinance? Okay. Answers, people? Why would we change it?
Basically, we looked at the difference in technology than when they were put in effect in 08.
Please provide reasoning references for each major change that was made in the summary that was from the planning board and the reasons. Reasoning references for each major change. That was the planning board. It's not us.
No. I think that the request is just like the narrative that was sent to the planning board, like you can use that, maybe, I don't know. I was thinking may use narrative from the seeker, but should include omissions like the Met Towers maximum years going from 3 to 10, and also having specific references. So like, why are you saying that when there's no turbine in the nation that's 700 feet tall, and yet we're saying that it's okay to go up 700 feet tall? And when we're saying that, like just going through and providing those references and those resources that you're saying that say that it's okay to have a shorter setback. And then it's okay, the sound levels, just having those, I don't know if you would use the Epson from Heritage Wind saying that it's okay, or if you have other sources not from Heritage Wind.
This is Lance. If I can just say that, essentially that what we did, and if you remember, we looked at recommendations from Lobella. We compared those to what Heritage was proposing, and if you recall, those were fairly consistent. And the other thing that we looked at were the standards that have been promulgated under 94C, and those are standards promulgated by the state. So if you look at those, and if you look at what we have in our proposed law, that we either equal or exceed in terms of regulation what the state standards are.
But the
So
94C,
it becomes, what is reasonable under the circumstances.
the 94C has not been adopted or not official regulations. And as we know and have looked at before, the state tends to go with the minimum and not necessarily also referencing our specific area and the topography that we have and the environment that we have. Sean was referencing earlier about, if we take away all the trees and all the homes, then we could have shorter wind turbines. Well, if we also had higher elevation, like they do down in the southern tier, where, it takes me back to wind turbines are best placed on high elevations, cliffs or ledges, or along the shore, along a coastal area. That's where the wind sources are, and open plains.
Summer said, I'd love to hear that from you.
I've shared that, I don't, the town of Barre does not fit any of those ideal locations for wind.
In other words, in somebody else's backyard.
Which is, no, what I'm saying is that the New York State electric payers are paying for this project, and that NYSERDA has already approved funding for different projects, And wouldn't you want it to go in a place where it's actually going to produce electricity?
It's gonna produce electricity.
But have you, like the Met Tower numbers, the wind speed's not, we don't have a good wind resource here in the town of Barre.
And you base that on,
The Neil Haybig's comments to me that we don't have a good wind resource, and looking at the Met Tower quarterly reports showing that we have a very low wind speed, and the fact that they had the reference going up in tower size.
the
because of lack
wind
of
speeds that they provide to us are at 20 meters, if I remember right. On the Met Tower, there are 3 levels of meteorological instruments. 20 meters is the lowest level.
Correct.
We do not have that information from the 2nd or the 3rd level, and even at the 3rd level, that's still quite a bit lower than where the hub of the NESA would be located. So the wind speed at higher elevation, I wish we had that, because I could point out to you, the higher you are from the surface, the greater the wind velocity.
And also the higher elevation you are, the greater the velocity of the wind speed. What I'm saying is, so I will
That
give
is
you,
elevation, yes.
after, when we had the meeting where the representatives from Heritage Wind expressed that they were going to be changing from a 4.2 megawatt turbine to a 5.6 megawatt turbine.
Back when you were president of Clear Skies Above Barre.
They shared about the Vesta 5.6. And at that point in time, I looked it up and I saw that the Vesta 5.6 was only going to last 20 years, with an asterisk by it saying 25 years if in the right conditions. When I left and walked out of this room, Neil Haybig came up to me and said, was frustrated with me and said, "Where did you find that information?" I showed him the pamphlet and he said, "Carrie, the town," I said, if you explain to me why the town of Barre will last for 25 years instead of 20 years. And he said, "Carrie, what is the wind speed here?" I said, "It's low." He said, "Right, so it's not going to be moving that much. If it doesn't move that much, it'll last longer."
Less wear and tear.
Right, less electricity generation. Not a wise investment of,
That's why with these new technological wind turbines, they move at a slower rate, but yet produce more electricity.
you realize that he was referencing those turbines and saying that they wouldn't be moving much. That's what I'm just
I
sharing
think
with you.
we're saying basically the
but
same
we should
thing.
move on.
Okay, number 2, why should a temporary Met Tower be allowed to be up for 10 years? That's a maximum of 10 years, renewable each year, the special use permit. And unforeseeable, I do not see where a Met Tower would be up for 10 years, because if they're interested in putting in a project, they're gonna be moving along faster or sooner than that. This is just me speaking right now. Versus if they don't have the wind that they need after a few years, they need, I believe, if I remember the conversations I had in the past, they need at least 2 years of data. So at least the 2 years. By year 3 and even definitely year 4, then they've got enough data to decide whether or not it's feasible to put in a wind farm.
So then we should change that back to what we have now and not.
It is, what
do
we
it every
have
10 years.
now, or in our proposal, is that it is renewable each year.
But you're saying that if it's not
But up to a
necessary.
maximum of 10 years. 10 years, come on, get out of here. There's no need for that Met Tower to be here anymore.
I guess I don't understand when, in our wind ordinance, as defined in our ordinance, temporary use means 6 months, and that's from section 350.11, there's a definition of temporary, and it references 6 months. Temporary use, an activity or use conducted for a specified limited period of time not exceeding 6 months. This term shall include those uses incidental to construction projects, festivals, tents, refreshment stands, temporary real estate sales offices, incidentals to a subdivision project, and similar type uses. And yet we're saying that a Met Tower, there are such things as permanent Met Towers, but we're saying that
And
it's
it will be
okay
a
for.
permanent Met Tower with the wind farm if and when it occurs.
Right, But we're
So
saying
there'll
in
be
our,
one Met Tower that is part of the project.
right, and would be taxed, right? And we're saying that it's okay to have a temporary use, structure that's not gonna be taxed for 10 years?
For up to a maximum 10 years, yeah.
It's, Sean, it's not 10, it's an aggregate of 7.
It,
So if you look at the ordinance on page, the proposed ordinance on page 23, it says that it's renewable annually for 3 years with subject to 4 annual extensions for an aggregate of 7 years.
okay, yes. I'm sorry, I apologize.
Did that change since the last time we talked about it? As a board?
What I'm referring is back to when we had first written it up, I believe in the original.
Right,
Yeah, in the summer.
that's what I'm saying, is I don't remember that changing from,
Then you didn't look over the newest one then, like I have, and obviously.
That was addressed before because there was some confusion
The wording
on
of
the
it.
wording. Two people could be saying the same thing, but different interpretations.
Interpreting differently.
So that was changed to put that wording like that into.
okay, but was that changed recently?
No, that was changed,
That was changed some time ago. So I remember Tom, Lance, and I talking about that. That was some time ago.
Okay, well, I'm just,
I just forgot about it, that's the way it's reworded.
okay, I didn't see
I
it.
think it was discussed in the work sessions too.
yeah, I think you're right,
Yes,
Lance.
But it's still 7 years is still a long time. And, you were just stating yourself that they should be done in 4 years.
no, I'm saying I need at least the 2 to 3 years, 4 years maximum to get really the data so they can start studying the data and decide whether or not it is feasible for a wind turbine project there.
Do you think there's ever been one that they've said, no, it's not feasible because you put in Met Towers and then said no? And had Met Towers up for 4 years and been working on a project for 4
I
years?
couldn't say.
And then
I
said
couldn't
no?
say. There's been a lot of wind projects that have not followed through with for one reason or another. So I could not say. I'm sure that they have found that reasoning. Okay, so that's 7 years, not the 10 years. Number 3, what are the length of time for other temporary structures in the town of Barre ordinance?
Oh, that's where I have the 6 months.
That's what's recommended.
It's, as our town ordinance says, temporary use means 6 months.
Well, I'm sure if you check with the planning board, there's been extensions made there as well. Number 4, why are Heritage Wind allowed to do so, break so many ordinances that no one else, either in our community or no other business, would be able to?
This is a question that is specific to a proposed project and not the local wind ordinance.
I didn't hear you, I'm sorry.
I said this is a question that is specific to a proposed project and not the local wind law.
Okay, thank you. Okay, 5, how much money would our town be receiving if the proposed wind turbines were taxed appropriately? If they are taxed appropriately, and then there's depreciation,
I think, never mind.
So I put on this one, this may be in reference to the proposed project, but too many assumptions would be required to give an estimate for this. However, if we were to use the current proposed project, I do have numbers for it, but
okay, I liked what you had to say at the very beginning there.
That's what
Okay. Number 6, according to the proposed changes, you are increasing the height limit by 40%, but the setback distance is not also increased by 40%. Why is that? You know, in essence, it is, because a 500-foot tower times 1.5 its height, now you're talking a 700-foot tower times 1.5, it is setback. And you're doing that 200-foot difference times 1.5, so it is increased. Now, is it 40% of an increase? I couldn't tell you. But it is an increase in distance because it is 1 point. So as it gets taller, it is definitely going to be further back from the property line, residence, structures as such. Sean, if you were reading this, please text me so I believe that you are really reading them. You're welcome. And I know you're listening right now, Iva. Number 8, what are the wind ordinances from other communities in our area that you have compared wind ordinances with? What is it for Kendall, New York? So we compared against wind ordinances with, well, I shouldn't say we did so much as LaBelle and Knopfshaw, being Dwight, who's on the line listening in. They did a lot of that research and comparing, and they've worked with a lot of different wind projects. Our towns, municipalities, because of wind projects. So they did a lot of this comparison for us.
Can we get a list? I requested this before from Professor Hall's study as well, a list of because he referenced that he reviewed ordinances, and I never got that. What were the ordinances that he reviewed? What were the ordinances that the Labella and Knopfshaw used or referenced?
Okay. Now, once again, this is not pertaining to the wind law itself, but they just want to know some added information. Was a committee of residents and planning board members put together to review the wind ordinance? You know what the answer is there. And
Wait.
once,
Number 8, you're saying that that's not in regards to the ordinance?
it's doing a comparison and responding to it, it is a comparison done by Knopfshaw as well as
Right.
LaBella.
I thought you were saying that it wasn't relevant to the wind ordinance.
I did say that inadvertently, I'm sorry. And what is it for Kendall, New York? I don't know. Does Kendall even have a wind ordinance? I don't know. Was a committee of residents and planning board members put together to review the wind ordinance? And everybody knows that we did not put together a committee, no. I was just asked by a resident, wondering if any other town board members have comments or on these questions or have written down their comments, as it seems only Ms. Richardson and yourself are commenting. Just see, that's what I received there. I don't have anything here. Do I have anything on my email? Out of curiosity. No, I do not. Okay. Number 10, what are the planning board's recommendations and are you following them? Thank you for your answers to all my questions and everyone else's. I look forward to hearing of answers to each one. Sincerely, Iva McKenna. The planning board's recommendations, basically, they took no stand whatsoever. There was an individual, Dr. McKenna, who made his...
I think that all that's necessary is just attaching the minutes from the planning board meeting.
I'm sorry?
We just need to attach the minutes from the planning board meeting.
Fine.
Because that's what they submitted as their letter of recommendation.
Okay. Okay, here are some questions for your meeting tonight. Lisa Burleson. 1, with the new proposed height of the turbines, this affects the visual impact at a greater distance, possibly reaching into the town of Albion. Even at 500 foot, they'd be reaching into the town of Albion. Have homeowners been contacted or surveyed for whom this will now affect? A number of them have been contacted, whether it was through the different organizations in the community, or by, like, when I'm knocking on doors and I'm talking to people through the years, I've had that discussion with them, so. Have we done a formal, like, mailing? No, we have not.
Yeah, I think that was,
The gist of it?
yeah.
What is the impact on real estate values with the turbines going up according to proximity? Once again, and I still read these reports, basically property values have not changed in the long run. They have increased in the long run. In the short term, what has happened is a number of people, because they don't like them, they want to get out, and they have sold their property for whatever they can get at that time. And unfortunately, they have sold at a lesser value. But like I said, after the project is up and operating, what I have seen and all the reports that I have read is that property values have continued to increase. I also have something from Barre at this time where we're still increasing the costs of our property values here, but that's for later on in the meeting.
So
And that is without the wind turbines at this time. Yes, I understand that.
can that was what I was gonna say. I was going to ask, because I think that this is something that has come up repeatedly over the years. And what you were just saying is that, yes, it will have an impact in the short term, at a minimum in the short term, as people who choose not to stay, if this project were to come in, leave town. And my question is that I do feel like it is still our responsibility as a town board members to help to protect the property value of our constituents. And I think that even if we at least looked over a property value guarantee, even if we shortened up the time frame so that our residents have the opportunity to see if it is something that they would like to stay with, or if they choose to sell, that the value of their homes is protected. And if there is a way that we can do that, now you know that I submitted a proposal to you, and it was one from another community that had a property value guarantee in their wind ordinance. It was not something that I came up with. If we could look at that and discuss that and possibly change it to be something that would protect our residents, I think that that would be a really wise use of our time and energy. And I think that all of our residents would greatly appreciate that.
Okay, thank you. I so note that, but I do not feel that is something that we need to really get into. 3, it would be helpful to see all pros and cons listed side by side along with the supportive scientific and physical evidence that comes from several sources and not just the wind company, which has a vested interest. You know, the misunderstanding, and I got a feeling it's from some people in the past that have knocked on doors there and have pushed saying that it's the evil monster Apex that is controlling everything here. I'm sorry, if it was all Apex, I'm sorry, Dwight, you're fired. Kathy, you're fired. Lance, you're fired. You people don't seem to know what you're talking about. It's all Apex. We don't need you. So I'm sorry, I guess those people aren't doing their due diligence. To the town of Barre board members. I'm expressing extreme concern over the fact that the town of Barre board is considering changing the wind laws that are previously established for the protection of our town residents. Yes, back in '08. I have continued to express my concern over the loss of values of properties surrounding these massive turbines with improper setbacks and noise from these monster turbines. It is bound to affect the value of the town of Barre properties. And as, once again, as Lance pointed out earlier, we have talked about ad nauseum that we have looked at, and that we are the same as what we had set up in 2008. At that time, we were doing things to protect our residents. So it's either the same or we have increased the protection, whether it's the setback or the sound, nighttime DBLs. We have increased them even greater or more strict than what the state recommendation is. So I don't see where, we're not loosening up. We're not letting Apex say, okay, this is what we want. Okay, Apex, you got it. This is the WID law, not Apex, and Apex keeps getting thrown in here. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say that we have multiple letters from Heritage Wind that we can go through and look at what recommendations that they proposed, major recommendations they proposed, and what
Yeah.
changes we've made to our wind ordinance.
And they could easily do that. They have every right to do that.
But then you're dismissing our residents' concerns and their feelings that,
I'm not dismissing them. I'm dismissing the idea that so many people think that we've caved into them and changed our wind law to accommodate them. We have not.
if you.
And as Lance pointed out, I think it was Kathy that put down a document there that you should have gotten a copy of that shows comparisons of what Heritage recommended and what Dwight and Kathy had recommended.
So maybe that's what we should put out there as a response to this letter. And then it's also challenging when they have, and this is addressed in here, and you've kind of been saying that Kathy and Dwight and throwing them, saying like, oh, they haven't, they're the ones that are being accused. You're their point of contact, and you're the one that is communicating with them and giving them direction and guidance from us as a town board. And this resident points out that, as a resident, that she believes that you have a conflict of interest. And whether or not that's true, the appearance of impropriety is there. That's all I'm going to say.
I have a letter right here from Heritage. I'm sorry, but Kathy's family is so fed up with all the bull crap that you, Clear Skies Above Barre, and others have put her through, and her family. She asked Heritage to pull, and they only had a small contract, a lease with them, just to run a transmission line across their property over here, because there was original talk of putting wind turbines up in the northwest corner of town. Now it's all going down the east side and the south side. But Penny was losing sleep because of what everybody was saying. She told them to tear up the contract. Now here's a woman who lives on a very, very strict income. And she told them to forget it. That $3,000 a year wasn't worth it. She could have used that $3,000. And I told her to do whatever she wanted to, because I don't have anything directly associated with it. So right here is a letter, notice of termination of the wind energy lease between Kathleen Ann Klein, trustee of the Paul A. and Penelope Gillette Irrevocable Trust, a Delaware limited liability company. That was originally dated July 17, 2017. Okay? Unless otherwise defined herein, capitalized terms shall have the meaning ascribed to such terms in the lease. This is dated December 29, 2020. Why it took them so long? Because she told them to tear up the paperwork back in the spring of 2020. She had enough.
I'm surprised that they allowed her to get out of her lease, because that's not a normal allowable, and.
Well, there it is, right there.
But I just would like.
Official. See the seal up there?
I would like to share that there was an alternative to that too, where she could have continued to receive those funds had you recused yourself. And I guess that, like, I'm not sure.
So now you're saying it's all my fault?
Well, you were putting
Never
in,
mind.
you literally just accused, you went through and accused myself, Clear Skies Above Barre, on
Mhm.
others. So
Carrie,
I'm just
take a
saying
look at it,
that there is an
there
alternative.
is still a GoFundMe page for Clear Skies Above Barre. Guess whose name it's under?
Thank you for bringing that to my attention. I will make sure that that gets changed because that's not appropriate.
True.
So
True.
that's all that needs to be said, is just share that and it'll be taken care of.
Mm-hmm. Okay, going back to Sue Webster's letter here. Once again, it's the same stuff that we had before. We could make the same responses like you had there, Carrie, on a couple of these items. It looks like her main concern is her home itself there and the property values. And as you pointed out so well in the last sentence, that I have a conflict of interest to this project. And as you now know, and everybody that's listening in, I do not have a conflict of interest. Okay, to pull out all the stops when notifying the public about some kind of meetings in regard to industrial wind turbines or solar projects with plenty of advance warning. December is a crazy busy month, and we have already had meetings on the 4th and the 10th with another to come on the 21st. I was able to attend on the 10th and intended to catch most of the meeting. The solar open house on the 21st after a late work night, but I did miss the 12/4 public hearing because there was no advance warning on the Orleans Hub or in the Penny Saver. Also, I am rushing this letter out because I saw the request for comments in the Penny Saver today with a due date of tomorrow. I'm against the proposed changes to the town of Barre wind law, but in the event Heritage Wind is allowed to do business in our town, we as the town of Barre deserve to know how much they stand to gain so that we know what they are offering isn't just a drop in their bucket. We should be insisting on a full disclosure from them and maximizing our benefit to help outweigh that which we stand to lose. I work here in Barre with a young man who lives in Warsaw who said to me, I thought that this is all, once again, it's not specific to the wind law other than their feeling that they are against it.
And we have already looked into making sure we advertise in the Penny Saver or the Hub for other things that are going to be held.
Yes.
I do think that it is interesting just that this individual said that they thought the turbines were cool at first, and now they don't like them. Just as a personal reference, and then just for a specific setback, or like a specific number, the young man said that the nearest windmill is 1.7 miles from his home. And on a quiet night, he can hear the constant whoop when he is outside. His roaster's friends who live adjacent to property. And then just the complaints, and I think that that's just important for us to just recognize that this is just a neighboring area, a town just a little bit south of us.
And that was your comment that you forwarded to Lee today?
No, the comment that I forwarded on, let's see here, I said, specific to the project, not to the proposal of the law in regards, and the Penny Saver one, I put, how do we as a town correct this in the future? How do we ensure that our community feels heard? Not something to discuss necessarily in regards to the comments here, but just for future reference. And quote from someone who was for them, and it's now against the turbines that are in his community, just as a note for myself. Those were the comments that I had on mine. I didn't know exactly how to respond to this one.
The next one here is a longtime Barre resident. I don't know who this is from because the name was crossed out, but not because it was a signature.
Do you want the name?
Yes, please. Okay, thank you. Okay, wind towers, I'm not totally opposed to the upcoming development of alternative energy. However, I am opposed to the extent of the height and how many are being considered. I feel there needs to be more options, lower height, less towers, solar farms. Please consider all options. Thank you. And once again, it's,
Thank you for sharing your concerns. The
Yeah.
board has taken them into consideration.
okay, Tom Barry Board, I respectfully request that you instill language in our town wind laws regarding the placement of wind turbines in any proposed projects that would protect citizens from losing use of their property and to protect future development within the town. For example, 400-foot wide lot with a home, and she's got a diagram on here as well. Could not sell the other half or for another residence because the turbine may be too close to the proposed home. That's why we have a setback from the property line as well. However, pushing the turbine off of the lot line would ensure that the dividend property could have a dwelling built on it. Please see my example below and attached. Also, what happens in the case where there are no dwellings to consider with the current proposal for placement? The setbacks are from property lines as well as from residences, depending on what you were talking about, whether it's the structure itself or the sound. So it is already specified there. So if they had that parcel for possible subdividing and putting another home in there, it would still be beyond the property line setback.
I don't think so.
You don't think so?
I'm sorry, it's getting late and I'm having a hard time focusing right now, but when you look at the way that we have the wind ordinance, so I'd actually like to, bring up a comment that was made. This was a discussion that Lance and I had at the last town board meeting, and he was referencing that, and I can pull up the actual specifics words that were used, but he was saying that we never said as a town board that we were going to go 2 times from the property line. However, if you pull up the referral that was sent to the county planning board, that highlighted version actually goes through and shows the, sorry, I'm trying to pull it up right now. It shows the 2 times from the property line, and that's one of the glaring differences between what was actually sent to the county and between the highlighted version and the not highlighted version. And I will give you those page numbers if you give me just a second. Sorry. documents open right now. Okay, here we go. All right, so if you look in and page 17 of the referral to the county, it's section 350, 103 standards, subsection 1 location, subsection H, and then subsection 2, it says, a distance not less than 2 times the tip height from any existing residential or commercial.
One second, please.
Sorry.
We're about, what page again?
In the county, the referral from the town to the county, I'm on page 17 of the PDF of the actual referral. It's page 14 of the highlighted wind ordinance.
Give me the specifics, 350, 10 what?
103,
Yep,
1 location, then subsection H.
okay, all wind energy conversion units.
Yep, and then number 2, it says, a distance not less than 2 times the tip height from any existing residential or commercial structure and non-participating property boundary lines. This distance may be reduced for WECS's small projects. This is what we as a town board discussed at our August meeting, our August workshop. At our September meeting, which I don't have documentation other than this, which clearly states that it is from property boundary lines, and that was discussed at our September meeting. Lance brought up that Heritage Wind contacted him and said that that would not work, and that we would they wanted us to revisit that, and everyone except for myself, it was not a formal vote, it was a just, what are your thoughts, said, oh yeah, we can change this back. And so this shows that we did have, in fact, where we as a town board discussed and included it in one of our forms, that we thought it was appropriate to have a setback of 2 times the tip height from non-participating property boundary lines, not from existing, and from existing residential and commercial structures, but from property lines of non-participants. I can show you on the computer.
Can you, I'm totally lost, Jerry.
So
You said, what page are we
it's this right here for, so this is the updated version that doesn't include this. This is what was sent to the county. And this is the top
on?
highlighted
Okay, You've
version.
got a copy of the one that was sent to the county.
Yeah, so here, I'll show you. So this is the zoning referral form. And if we go down to page 14,
I hope you can read those that fast, I can't.
no, I'm not reading all of it. I'm just getting back to the page.
It's 10.
So page, it's page 17 in the referral.
Okay, it's 14, we got here, that's,
Right, but so this one is just saying, it's saying 2 times the tip height from existing residential, commercials, or commercial buildings.
I'm going to step on just for a second.
Okay, but it does change.
but this is the one that we're using, right?
See, that's the thing, is that we don't know, because both of these are what were sent to the county. If you look,
They can't answer anything of what was sent to the county, Jerry. All I know is those that I didn't receive.
right, so, but this was one of the ones that we talked about, and this was a discussion that we had. And at the last meeting, Lance said that that wasn't the case. And this is proof that it was, that we had discussed this and this was something that we had included.
Well, my recollection of this is that this was talked about, and the ultimate change, I mean, it would probably may have come after the highlighted version, but the ultimate change was a distance of not less than 2 times the tip height from any existing residential or commercial buildings. It did say structure before, but then there was some question as to what constituted a structure, and it would include fences and things like that. And
Right.
and then there was 1.5 times the tip height from the property lines of any non-participating property. In my recollections, that's exactly how we finished it up.
Lance, if you look at what was submitted in the referral, you will see that it is highlighted and non-participating property boundary lines.
Well, I don't know, I wasn't, I have to see what was submitted, but I do recollect that this was discussed at length, and that what we wound up with was what's in the final version.
But the thing is that takes away the rights of our residents to use their property for whatever purposes that they would like to use.
Why? I mean, you make a bold statement like that, and I'm not defending the town or otherwise, but that's not true. And zoning does impose restrictions on people's uses, all right? That's why you're not supposed to storm the Capitol building. That's why you have zoning regulations. And to say that they can't use their property the way they want to,
So if you,
there's nothing that says they can't use the property the way they want to. But if you have certain setbacks, now people decide they want to build a building closer than what those setbacks are. That's basically you're disregarding what the law says.
right,
And it's no different than if you want to subdivide your property and you subdivide a lot that doesn't constitute a valid subdivision lot under the zoning law.
exactly. So I agree with you on that, and my concern is that we can set these setbacks from the property lines to protect them so that if they choose to subdivide their property, that they can do that. It should not be, setbacks should not be based on residential structures or homes or residences. It should be based on property line, because a person owns their property.
I think there are 2 different criteria here, and I think we talked about this before. When we talked about the property line, it's the existing property line, it's the exterior perimeter of the property line, and that's not going to change, is it? If somebody's going to subdivide their lot, aren't they going to make a smaller piece out of the larger piece? But the exterior boundaries remain the same. And this is no different than any other law that I've looked at in terms of having a setback from a property line of a non-participating property.
If you're looking at a property, okay, and we're
I
having,
don't want to argue, it's not my job to argue. I just think that, I honestly think that some of the arguments that you're just raising to raise them.
if you look, okay, so you're not arguing to arguing, but then you just put in your personal opinion on what I'm doing.
Well, you're putting your personal opinion in too, so what's the difference?
I'm an elected town board member, and he's serving as our counsel.
How many months or years, so.
Okay, let's move on with this here. We understand what their concern, what Burnside's concern is insofar as the property line, and
Do we
once
know?
again, okay? Next, to the Barre Town Board members, I would like to show my support for the changes in the town of Barre's wind ordinance and for the Heritage Wind Project. I would like our town board to work together and make the appropriate changes to help best benefit our town and all its residents. This was a postcard that was sent in to us. Postcard was signed by James Mathis, Christine Loss, Dustin Loss, Ernie Loss, Alan Panic, Phil Panic, James Panic, Chris Smith, Gene Kahn, Richard Kahn, Norma Flugel, Robin Jers, Joshua Jers, Christopher Flansburgh, Samantha Flansburgh, Michael Gilchrist, Barbara Bollinger, Madeline Peglow, William Peglow, Amber Sidari, Dominic Sadari, Catherine DePady, Michael, not quite sure on the last name, Wes Miller, Elizabeth Miller, John Peglow, Mary Newbold, Melissa Peglow, Jason Spencer, Stephanie Spencer, Peter Mathis, Ken Herring, Nick Sewell, Lynette Herring, Wyatt E. Newbold, Susan Stymus, Dennis Stymus, John Egloff, Alex Egloff, Mary Schaefer, Steve Thiel, David Postal, Patty Thiel, George Mathis, Eugene Mathis, John Maticelli, Albert Davis, Debbie Ruin, Lois Henderson, Daniel McKay, Michael Beck, Laura Beck, Charles Mathis, Alice Mathis, Steve Harling, and Kirk Mathis. There's quite a few people there in favor of changes there. To the town of Barre, I'm writing to express my support for the change of the town of Barre's wind ordinance for the Barre Wind Project. I believe the proposed changes will allow the turbines to be built responsibly and ensure the safety of the residents. It continues to baffle me that anyone could be against green energy programs, and I feel that the opposition is self-serving and ignorant. I should have said that one. My husband and I both will be retired in a few years, and the benefits from the Heritage Wind Project will help us a great deal, and understand that we haven't been designated to have a turbine on our property, but more than that, we haven't been designated to have a wind turbine. We have to make sure our grandchildren have a planet they can live on, and green energy is necessary. Thank you, and that's from Chris Voss. I am for the wind project if it lowers everyone's property taxes, and I think wind energy and wind turbines are magnificent. That's from Kirk Dudley.
Are we going through and saying that like just all of these are, thank you for your comments, they have been considered?
Basically, yes.
Okay.
Everything there, because there was no specifics.
Everything that's left in our notes here are all positive, Sherry. People are expressing their support
Yeah,
on
this
the
next one from Christine Yunker, CY Farms,
I do have, I mean, if,
Steve Harling.
for the sake of time, if, I'm fine with going through, continuing in the same manner of going through these.
I think, you know, we could read them on and on. All the rest of these are positive ones, and there are a ton of signatures. Some of these are form letters like we had before. I mean, this next one here,
We got a whole page of just signatures.
yeah, we got one page of signatures all in favor of. Our hope is that our town board can work together to show that we elected them to be our voices, and to thank you, to thank for all residents. We urge you to support Heritage Wind and revise the wind ordinance to provide for. Okay, they're talking about, once again, is basically it sounds like Heritage is revising our wind laws.
Right, so
We
even,
are doing it, but they are in support of it.
but I'm just sharing that that's from both sides. The
Yes.
impression is that Heritage Wind is the one facilitating this.
Man, I guess we haven't done anything for all these years because it's all Heritage.
If,
Okay, another one here, Alice Mathis in favor of the wind ordinance change. I'm writing on behalf of the Sierra Club Niagara Group, which encompasses Orleans County. They are pleased to see that the changes in the ordinances meet or go beyond the standards protecting the community with strict setbacks, sound regs, construction hours, and shadow flicker. We also think it is important that you raise the height limits for the towers, since they are so much more efficient, and you will need fewer towers to achieve the same energy output.
I
Okay.
have a comment on this one. So she wrote a small note to share concerns about one of the introductory statements, number 11, when stating that turbines can cause problems to habitat and wetlands. When you consider the habitat loss, leak spills, air degradation, wells contamination and increased greenhouse gas caused by dirty fossil fuel extraction, it would have seemed more fair to put some kind of note of comparison in the statement. Also, I believe, but not 100% sure, that any kind of electromagnetic interference is addressed in 94C, and it goes on to talk about the Article 10 and ORs. I just commented that it is, that I do think that it is our local law. Our local law does need to address the negative impacts to habitats and wetlands of our community, as it is our responsibility to protect our local environment. And then I just had an additional comment that upstate New York is already operating at 86% carbon emissions free, according to the New York State Independent Operating System, and that this project will not actually reduce greenhouse gas emissions, and therefore it's not necessary to do a comparison between the alternative of dirty fossil fuel, because we're already operating higher than what Governor Cuomo's initiatives are.
Okay, those are your comments you wrote down there?
Yes, and that was included in what was emailed. And it has it broken out between, so you figure out what you want to.
Okay. Next one says that they're in support of the Heritage Wind Project in Barre. That's the Heritage Wind Project, not so specific about the wind law itself. I realize the changes to our ordinance would have to be made when our initial wind ordinance was created. There were not turbines as tall as the proposed ones. Technology has changed since then. I do not see the difference in height as an issue. In fact, there will be fewer turbines because of it. Technology changes all the time. I actually like the fact that our little town could be part of making the world better. Okay? Let's make an effort in making a difference. That's from Kelly Dudley. I'll recommend passage the forward-looking amendments to the Town of Barre Local Law number 2 of the year 2020, which is now updated there. The sound requirements, non-participating structures, nighttime outside non-participant will ensure the sound reduction is well within the international standards for the protection of residents in the area. The amendment will also require that blade flicker will not fall upon any portion of the residential structure for more than 25 hours per year. The increase in turbine height instruction contained in the present law will allow more electricity to be produced with less turbines. The increase in production would also increase the lease payments being made to farmers, which ensures they are able to maintain their properties as viable agricultural entities. Wind turbines in the town of Barre will be a wonderful economic boom through payments in lieu of taxes to the town, school, and county. Thank you for your efforts in drafting this fine amendment to your local laws. Robert Cislinski, Sierra Club volunteer. Larry Gaylord, in favor of the proposed wind law changes, the opportunities for the town. He was on the town board at the time when he helped draft the current wind law. Okay. Express my opinion on the proposed change to wind law in town of Barre. Wonder how many people have actually read the entire law. I did, and found that town planners in '07 were thorough in expressing the desire of the applicants of wind energy projects to be very serious about their intention to come into our town. Proposal of a wind farm that would most likely use turbines 500 feet tall. They had no way of knowing that research and technological advances would push the height of the turbines in just 13 years to over 700 feet to increase efficiency. Okay. It's all, you know, based on they're in favor of it. Leaseholders within 1 mile of wind ordinance, no, I agree. Last night, as I watched television, an advertisement from Ford Company caught my attention. The speaker described the company's promise to produce only electric cars and trucks within a few decades. Out of stock is Tesla, which we got right up the road in Buffalo. How do we provide? The main objection, the windmills seem to be, well, they're out, okay.
This is another one that states, I sincerely wholeheartedly ask you to adopt the changes proposed by Apex.
Yeah, it's put in, this was by Joe Weiss. He points out his beliefs and how it would be beneficial to all, not just us alone.
But our,
Southern Orleans Trailblazers, we support our landowners in their decision to participate in the Apex Fair. Okay.
so I have a question on this.
Which one?
Why the Southern Orleans Trailblazers?
Yeah,
Who submitted this and why is this being included in our public hearing comments? Because this was submitted to the board like 2-3 years ago? 2 years ago, I
a couple
believe?
of these people would ask to have resubmitted.
Can you put who asked for, like, put that information as who asked for this to be resubmitted? Because I think that it looks like we're just kind of throwing in anybody that was in favor of it from this entire length of time.
The stuff that I gave Lee to submit was stuff that was sent to me, either, some of these were text messages, which I sent to my email so they could be run off. Some of them were emails. Some of them were handwritten letters, as you saw, that were put in the Dropbox. These were all things that we had relevant at that time.
But this is, so the thought process behind this is we don't have documentation of who actually submitted the Southern Orleans Trailblazers and like when they submitted it.
The sign, you got it
Yeah,
signed.
signed by.
Right at the
No,
bottom.
no. See, this is the thing. These were submitted and signed in 2018.
All right.
This is not relevant to our wind ordinance. They were signed prior to, with no review of the wind ordinance, and including on here, one of our
Where do you
planning
get
board,
2018? I don't even see a date on here.
7/8/2018, for the Albion Rod and Gun Club. And this was, I
I'm looking
think
at
it's
Southern
over.
Orleans Trailblazers.
Okay, it's the next one down, but that's this
Oh,
whole
I see,
section.
okay. You're on the next page. I thought you were still referring to Orleans Trailblazers.
No,
You are
this,
getting tired.
this whole section is, these were put in here, and there's one that has like, so there was a planning board member who stated in an earlier email that he was not putting his opinion forth, and then in documentation here, it presents like he's putting forth an opinion. And I don't know, I don't think that it's appropriate if these individuals, do we know that they were sharing this? Was this just thrown in? I'm just confused as to the relevance and why these older documents are being included in this. Unless if it was, there was an earlier document that from Alice Mathis, I believe, that stated she's requesting that that be included. That's fine. But to have these in here without anyone requesting to have them in here, that's concerning.
Well, how do you know? How do you know Alex Naka requested that one there? And that wasn't from way back.
What one?
You just used Alex Naka's name.
I said Alice Mathis.
Oh, Alice Mathis, I'm sorry. I hate these things.
Yeah, I know, me too. The next one, again, is not relevant to the proposed wind ordinance.
Right, or the next one.
And yeah, the same concern with the Orleans County ATV Association, that's from May of 2018.
Okay,
I'm curious as to references, for comments in the next one. I really would like to know, this individual put, once this town had a lot of income from multiple dairy farms, various dealerships, snowmobiles, tractors, motorcycles, and RVs. There were more than one auto mechanics to get your car repaired. The hamlet had a small grocery store. And it goes on and it says, and so goes the tax dollars. Barre has become largely a bedroom community, and that means the tax burden that was once helped by businesses now falls almost completely on the landowners and landholders. There were some additional comments in here that I'm just curious where his references are, like if that's true. Like
Is that this one?
Sorry,
The one from Tom Decker?
No,
No.
it's below that.
No.
White.
next one. No, that one wasn't relevant.
You're talking about Carl White.
Yeah.
He came in and addressed the board at one of our meetings, and he
Yeah,
positive
he
about
read
this.
this,
Oh, this is the same thing that you read then?
yes.
Oh, okay, I see where
Okay.
you are now.
Yeah.
He's positive on for it. He
No,
sent a
right.
letter.
I know that he's for it. I was just curious as to, I would like to do these comparisons and see, you know, he made comments that, where was it? It is getting too late. I think it was mainly when I read this in the decline of available jobs in the community. I think that the jobs have changed, but I still think that we do have jobs available in our community.
Not many.
Not many.
Well, okay. There,
Not many.
Yeah, me too. It's gonna shut off on me here shortly.
I did too.
Okay. Once again, that wasn't relevant to the wood law. Next one here from Van Leeshout family, they broke it down. 2008, they did it by year. Apex signed up 150 leaseholders. 2018, Town of Barre took intervener. I don't see anything here pertinent to the wind. It was a calendar of such showing when things occurred through the years having to do with wind. So I'll move on from that one.
the next one is a duplicate.
Is a what?
It was in here twice.
Oh, okay. Yes, it is. Okay. Yep, I remember that one.
Can we go back to the comments that were made by Katie Smith in regards to her daughter and autism concerns?
Yeah, I'd like to hear something more on that. I looked it up on the internet and got some information as far as autism. And what I found on it, Terry, is basically it's broken down into 3 different classes, and the wind or the change in weather can affect them, sound can affect them, a number of things can affect people with autism. But it doesn't say that it affects them all the time, so it's kind of difficult with what I read. I feel sorry for the family concerned, I hope things work out, but I don't see where it said that the wind tower itself is going to, every time it makes a resolution, it's going to affect someone.
All you have to do is change their routine,
Right.
and that affects them.
Right. There's a lot of things that I read that affects them, but I didn't see where it said definitely it does.
So in order for you to, so what are you saying you need from this parent, this family, these residents of our community to recognize that this is a legitimate concern for, and something that we should address? Or are you saying that you feel that this isn't, it's not something that we as a town should be addressing?
I think it is a concern, and as I say, but the thing is, I don't know how we would address it. I would have to think that a lot of that testing that they've done was in a controlled environment.
Tom, I just got a text message saying they can't hear you too well.
Oh, okay.
I'm sorry.
It's probably my mask, but that's all right. I was saying that I did some work on the internet and got some information, and I'd like to hear what Carrie, she found out and what the Smiths said.
Well,
The letter that you sent out, Carrie, I couldn't read it, it was so small. The print.
okay, well, I can try and print out a larger version. She is still waiting on a letter from her neurologist, the doctor that's a neurologist. But there was also an article that she sent that I forwarded on to you guys, yes, referencing wind turbines specifically and the autistic population. And it was saying, oh boy, I don't know if I have it right here.
The letter that you had sent today was from a Melissa Ryan, who's a nurse practitioner, not a doctor, but she still has background. And in her letter, she was saying, like, children with autism often have sensory issues. Can be, she's using words like can be and often have, and she's not definitive that this is what would happen with this child in question.
But she did share that she shared specifics about this child and,
Yeah, I gotta take a
And what
look
she
at it, because
has.
I don't know what an R26.89 stands for. It's a code number.
and then also, I also sent out, prior to this, an article that Katie had sent. And,
Maybe this one.
yes.
And this was put out by Select Works, and from what I can tell, Select Works, anyone can write up a paper and submit them. They can,
It's Western University from the selected works of Grace L. Howell. So it's,
you know, you list your references, the ones that you use in the article itself.
she's a faculty member, Faculty of Education, Western
Yes.
University.
Do you know, in terms of where this child resides, do you know anything in terms of the relationship distance-wise to any proposed wind turbine?
The exact distance, no, I do not, but there's approximately 4, I believe, that would be
In the field across the street.
in the field across the street. There's one? Okay.
So but the thing is that right now we're talking about the wind ordinance, and I think that it's important that we have appropriate setback to protect our residents.
Okay.
Again, I'm not arguing in favor of one thing or the other, but the decibel ranges that we have, I mean, normal conversation among people is at a higher decibel level than what we specified for these wind turbines. So and I've also tried to do some research online. I haven't found any empirical studies. In fact, I haven't even found any allegorical studies, which talk about the specific effects of a wind turbine, on an autistic person. And that's why I was just trying to figure out if this was even an issue, if there's even a proximity issue here that needs to be addressed, and that would be site-specific. I mean, you can't, in my mind, in my opinion, you can't have something that says, well, you can't have wind turbines here because people have autism. You can't build wind turbines in general because it's going to have some effect on autistic people. And there really is nothing that I've seen that, there's no scientific linkage between the two. So, and when I say allegorical, I didn't even find any discussions about, would this actually happen to my kid, or this actually happen to me? I haven't seen anything like that in the stuff that's on the internet.
Did you get the article that she submitted? And I'm really curious to see too what her neurologist said. She has shared with me that she has talked to her and she did express that is a concern. from her doctor's perspective.
Sean, this is Dwight, and I guess I want to just reinforce what Lance just said. I mean, I'm certainly not an expert on any, the linkage between whatever noise and autism, but the citing the turbine and the potential impact on a child who's potentially impacted by noise and such is really a site-specific question. I mean, otherwise, autism is rather prevalent, so in a sense, it would be banning wind turbines in any area where there's potentially autistic children. The letter that was submitted didn't say what noise were issued, what distances and such. I think, it raises an issue that certainly, in the citing proceeding should be potentially raised. But to me, it seems a site-specific issue.
And I think we've lost sight of the fact that we do have an existing wind law that does have actually higher decibel levels, especially at nighttime, for non-participants. So I guess what I'm saying is if there's a threat, and I don't know that there is or there isn't, that threat already exists by the fact that we already have a wind law in place.
I don't think that she's necessarily saying, I think the thought is that we're reviewing the wind ordinance and now would be the opportunity to facilitate greater protection for her child.
Well, the question is, so what would that protection be?
Right, and I think that's her question too. I think that that's what we're trying to figure out.
Inherently, it's a site-specific question. If someone's 300 feet away or something, or the minimum distance, that might be one issue, but it's a hypothetical, and it has to do with a particular sited turbine relative to a certain location.
And if I remember right, some of the research that we had that was submitted to us, the ambient noise, daytime as well as nighttime, is quite a bit higher or equal to what our regulations are for the wind turbines too. And especially this coming year, from what I had read, this is supposed to be the year of the cicada, which means we're going to have a noisy summer. Okay, at this time with the autism, there's not, I don't see where we can really do anything with that. I mean, in essence, that would be like telling, if that project were to go through, that they would have to remove 4 or 5 of their turbines in that area up there, but the ambient noise, I think, is the same or greater, if I remember the research on that. Okay, we got the comments on all our public hearings comments. Let's move on to the seeker proposed wind law. Part 1 we went through already back a couple months ago.
Can I make a motion? It's 10 o'clock. We've been going at this for 3 hours. Can I move that we table this, or if you guys want to really move on this and want to set a special meeting time? I'm getting tired. I do have a lot of comments on the seeker, and I would really prefer if we could let everybody come back with a clear head and discuss this when we can refocus.
I myself, I just soon just keep pushing along. I want to get this done tonight.
It's 10 o'clock. I have a 2-month-old baby at home.
Mm-hmm.
I think that it's, and I'm sharing with you that I have a lot, that it's not gonna be a super quick thing, that I have comments, that I have concerns with the seeker that I would like to go through, and I think that, the residents who are listening, I think that everyone who's here, it's a weeknight, we have other things and other responsibilities, I know Margaret's gotta get up early.
I've got an hour drive back to where I'm staying presently and have to be back here again tomorrow morning for a
Exactly.
meeting, so I'm
Exactly.
willing to stay.
But I am requesting for the residents of our community, for myself, and I don't normally do this,
Why for the residents of the community?
for who are listening in, who care about this, who want to participate in our community, in our government system.
I'm in favor of continuing.
I have no problem with it.
Margaret?
I'm fine, I want to be done.
Lynn?
I want to be done.
I'm sorry, but if you guys are pushing this forward solely because you want to be done and not because you want to do what's best for our community,
I don't
Do it.
want another night to go till 10 o'clock.
so you would rather go to 1 a.m. then?
Yes,
Maybe.
I am sorry, but I cannot believe that you guys are saying this. It is 10 o'clock at night.
You
We have
know,
been here for 3 hours doing what we should be doing.
Yeah, true.
I am
And we
tired,
are
I have
doing
a
our due diligence to
2-month-old
continue.
child at home, and I am asking, as a fellow town board member, that you guys respect that, and that, Margaret, the other day when we had a set a meeting, you got all frustrated with me because I asked if we could do it at a different time instead of a Friday evening, and we continued to have it at a Friday evening because that would work better. That's fine, I'm asking for that same courtesy. That I don't mind if we set a special meeting for Monday of next week or for a time that would work. I'm not saying that we have to wait till next month's meeting, but I'm asking you please that we postpone, that we table this so that we can think clearly as we go through these things.
I've
I
gone
have no
through all
problem
these
thinking-
already.
I
I'm
went through
set.
them this week.
I'm saying as we discuss them as a group.
My feeling is we continue. Everybody, what does everybody else say? Continue or not?
Like I said, it makes no difference to me.
Okay.
So this
then we're gonna
is the,
continue.
I'm going to formally, so that then I can see how the respect works in this group. I am going to formally request, I'm going to make a motion that we table the seeker proposed wind law, the proposed wind law, and anything else that will need further discussion until another time. And I don't mind if we set that for next week. It does not have to be. I don't mind if we call a special meeting. I'm not trying to hold this up. I'm asking you guys. I have come to every meeting. I am trying to serve our community as best as possible. And I'm asking for that we table
Okay,
this.
Carrie has made a motion. Do I hear a second for it?
Wow.
Not hearing a second, then
Wow, thank you. Thank you, Lynn, thank you, Margaret, thank you, Tom, thank you, Sean, for caring about, that's wonderful.
when you took this
I think-
position, when you were elected to this position, there are times where you have to go above and beyond, and right now is one of those.
And I
We'd
am,
all like
and
to
you
go
know,
above
I'm
this time.
someone who doesn't go above and beyond in what I'm doing in serving this community. You recognize that I had a child less than 7 hours after a town board
You have
meeting.
spent,
And I don't go above and beyond. Thank you, Sean. Thank you for that. I don't go above and beyond as a town board member. And I was in,
just because you can't get your own way,
that's,
you're saying we're all bad people.
I'm going to leave at this point in time. Thank you for your time. Going to go home to my child.
okay, then we will continue. Part one of the seeker, we had already went over and discussed. We have part two and part three here.
I will email you my
Okay.
comments on part 1 of the seekers so that you can review them. I don't have the version that's easy for you to review, but you can go through that while you're here. And then at least I've got something sent to you.
Okay. Part 2, indemnification of the potential project impacts. Okay, to shorten this a little bit, impact on land, if it is checked no, there is no need to go down through all the other components. Does anybody see or question any part of impact on land?
No. The next one is, the next two are a no, the next one is a no, and the next one is a
And
no.
number 3, impacts on water surface is a no, correct?
Right,
Impact on groundwater, that was checked no.
yep,
Impact on flooding,
no,
once again, is no. Remember, this is pertaining to the law changes only. Impact on the air, the law does not affect the air, so the answer is no. Impact on plants and animals, proposed action may result in a loss of flora or fauna, and that was checked yes.
okay, and what my concern, Sean, on that is, it says moderate to large impact may occur. But if you go back to the end of this with the summations, they address that so that you can understand why they put it there.
I'm sorry, to the end where?
You go to the end of the
Part 2?
and it goes to part 3, where they have the reasons supporting the determinations. And you read through that, and it addresses these that are in moderate to large impact.
Okay, Dwight, you still on the line, or you've gone to sleep too?
No, I'm still here. I couldn't quite hear the comment though, it kind of broke up. Could you repeat it?
Okay, Dwight, I just checked as I went through these, any that said yes, and then they listed or checked under moderate to large impact may occur. And those there, if you go back in and look at them and you have any questions, you go back into where the reasons for supporting the determinations and look at that, which is the part 3 of the evaluation. They cover explanation on those different things.
Correct.
So I'm just trying to, maybe we could save some time instead of trying to go through every one of them. We could just look at them and look at the explanations and if we're satisfied.
Yeah, that's fine as far as process. I think that's the intent of the narrative, is to, analyze those, where, medium to large impact is potentially present. The intent there is to analyze those issues. The narrative does conclude that there is no significant adverse impact.
Right.
And I think the discussion should be, whether based on that rationale or other rationale, that's the conclusion of the board on that issue.
Right, and personally, I saw nothing that glared or I could accept what their summation was.
Okay, so then, as far as you're concerned, we're fine with that, the impact on plants and animals?
Yep.
Anybody else? Okay, number 8, impact on agricultural resources, that's checked no. Anybody disagree? Number 9, impact on aesthetic resources. And that was checked yes. And they were all no or small impact may occur. Any discussion there?
No?
Number 10, impact on historic and archaeological resources, that was checked yes. There is 2 of the items that were checked, moderate to large impact, having to do with historic places, national or state register, parks, recreation, moderate to a large impact. But the point being is that we don't really have any, all our historical places are distanced from any of the, from the wind overlay.
Right, and again, as I say in the summation, they addressed that
Yeah.
to show it wasn't any impact. it has very little impact.
Okay, number 11, impact on open space recreation, no. Impact on critical environment areas, no. Impact on transportation, no. Impact on energy, no. Impact on noise, odor, and light. And that was checked yes, but they were all checked as no or small impact may occur. Questions there?
No.
Okay. 16, impact on human health, that's checked as no. 17, consistency with community plans, that's checked as no. 18, consistency with community character, that is checked yes. And there are a couple here, increased level height of turbines would be visible. Okay, and this is all described once again in the summation.
Right, and they did address some wording in here.
At number G.
G, they've written in other impacts, increased allowable height and turbines would be visible from a greater distance.
In the rural landscape, yeah.
Right.
So, I mean, they've addressed these things. The summation came up that they really didn't think there was going to be any impact whatsoever.
Okay then. No problems with part 2 then of the seeker then, correct? Okay, then part 3, evaluation of the magnitude or importance of the project impacts and determination of significance. That is the attached narrative. On review of the information recorded in this EAF, as noted, plus the additional supportive information. They have down, Kathy put in here, prepared by John Hall. The project will result, it is checked here, letter A, this project will result in no significant adverse impacts on the environment, and therefore an environmental impact statement need not be prepared. Accordingly, this negative declaration is issued. Anybody have any comments? Then do I hear a motion to accept the seeker parts 1, 2, and 3? I believe we did part 1 before. We accepted it, did we not?
Yes, I
think we did, yeah.
I'll make a motion, we accept,
Yes, you did.
Okay, thank
we
you.
accept part 2 and 3.
And the negative declaration.
Right.
Okay, all in favor?
Got to have a second on that, I'll second.
Oh, I'm sorry, yes. Second?
You get tired too?
That's why I need to go back and give another can of caffeine. Okay, who seconds?
I second.
Tom seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed and absent would be Ms. Richardson. Okay, the seekers therefore passed. Okay, that moves us down then to the proposed wind law, local law number 1 of the year 2021, the newest, cleanest, revised copy with corrections made insofar as pagination and numbers on it. Basically, it's the same as our previous one, only we tightened it up a little bit. That's the basics of it. So, any questions on the law? Any discussion?
No, I think we've been over it many times and we've got it straightened out.
I'll make a motion, we accept it.
Okay, Lynn accepts it, or makes the motion, I'm sorry.
I will second that.
Margaret seconds it. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Absent would be Ms. Richardson. So carried.
Sean, are you voting on this as well?
You don't have to.
My feeling was that maybe because of people arguing the fact and saying I still have a conflict, my feeling was maybe I should abstain from it.
But I'm trying to remember how many votes you have to have, so
Well, you got three out of the.
I guess you still have a majority of the board, so you're
Yes.
okay.
Yeah.
Yes,
Okay.
you don't have to have a supermajority, correct?
Yeah, correct.
Okay. And there was 3 in favor. Okay, moving on.
Sean, I would recommend, that the negative declaration be, although it's an unlisted action, you've done what's needed to be done as if it were a type 1 and you use the full, EAF. I'd recommend that, as would be necessary for a type 1 action, that the negative declaration be provided to the county planning board, and that it be filed with the environmental notice bulletin.
With the environmental notice bulletin?
Yeah, I can take care of that. It's the DEC publication,
Oh, okay,
of negative declaration.
okay. If you would please, that would be greatly appreciated.
Because I think, Dwight, we've already, it's listed as an unlisted one.
Right.
You know, we had a conversation.
Maureen knows we have to put the local law in the proper format for filing with the Secretary of State. But I think there's a 10-day rule on that, if I'm not mistaken.
I think you also have to publish a summary of the notice of adoption because it's a zoning law.
Okay, I do believe you sent something to me earlier today on that, did you not, Dwight?
I did.
Okay. I'll make sure Maureen has that if she did not get copied in on it. Okay, real quick then, let's go through some of these things here. Year-to-date on expenses. Townwide, we have used so far 9.38% of the annual budget. Highway has used 7.32% of its annual budget. Our workers' compensation and New York State retirement have been paid in full at this time. So that's all taken care of for this year. Dale's report here, highway and water report. Same old with the flushes, stakeout, stump grinding, sign repairs. That's taken care of. Town clerk. Okay, I thank you, ma'am. Anything to add, Margaret? Highway,
No, not at this time.
planning or zoning, Tom?
No.
I do have here building permits, there's been 2 so far for this calendar year, both at the end of January, so we have some people doing some work there. I have the assessor's report, the annual reassessment of the town of Barre is almost done. Attached our current documents from the state. He gave this to me, hard copy in my mailbox. You guys wish you had copies? Do you have them?
Yeah, he gave.
Oh, okay,
he gave
good.
all of us
They were all in
separately.
our mailboxes when we got here tonight.
Okay, then I'm not gonna bother going through and reading all of this, other than when document one is received, you know, I should read it because of people that may be listening in or will listen into the recording of this. This shows that equalization rates would be, if nothing is done. For the town of Barre, residential rate would be 96.47%, and overall rate of 97.39%. Chart also shows the other towns in Orleans County. Document 2 shows how the state makes their numbers work. Is the state dictating this? This shows the range of how much values need to increase in 2021 to claim 100% assessed value. Barre has finished the increases for the residential properties for 2021. I submitted the file to the state for review. Document 3 shows the new residential ratio of 98.27. This new ratio brings the overall ratio over 99%, which will allow us to claim 100% for 2021. He's still waiting for the utility values to come in from the state. Once they come in, you'll be ready to mail out change notices. Okay, so once again, to get us to 100% assessed value, and it is being dictated by the state like you. Okay. Lance, you got anything to add?
Absolutely. Just two things. We did file the final one on Water District 10, both with the comptroller and with the county. Then with regard to that water district, we do have to have one private easement, which I have prepared. It goes to Sunrise Bees. And so I've sent that out for them to sign, and then when it comes back, you'll have to sign it on behalf of the town, and we can record that.
Okay.
That's part of what we have to report to rural development, that we have obtained all the necessary easements provided.
Okay. Okay, now we're down to then, last thing has to do with the speakers. If either Mr. or Dr. McKenna, I'm sorry, Dr. McKenna or Ms. McKenna are available, they can call in on my phone. Okay. Ms. McKenna, you are on.
Hi, okay. I have a question, I'd like to start out with as far as the property values are concerned, Sean, and you mentioned that, that there shouldn't be any, based on information that you had, there shouldn't be any change in property values. Is that
Long
correct?
range, long range.
Long range. Okay, so what I'm wondering is you speak very often of peer-reviewed studies, and I'm just wondering how many other 700-foot wind turbines are there in the United States?
I think
How
you
many other
know,
wind turbine farms?
I think you know the answer to that.
Okay, but I'd like you to tell me what your perception is of the answer.
Of 700 foot, there is only one turbine that is standing in the United States at this time, and that's in Texas.
Okay, so then I guess that would probably mean from the perspective that I would look at it would be that we really don't know that, do we? Given especially the fact that we would have more skyscrapers per average square mile in Barre than they do in New York City. So I think that that's something that is kind of concerning to me. I know you're always concerned about having things be peer reviewed, but it's kind of hard to have them be peer reviewed when there are none established. So that's kind of something that we might want to be careful about. Also wondering, we have two attorneys on this evening, I believe, and I'm just wondering who is paying Attorney Marks and who is paying Attorney Dwight?
Well, with them being online, having Lance, this is part of his job with his contract with the
Right.
town. With Mr.,
Like,
yeah, I wanted to say Mr. Dwight, but that's not correct.
that's all right.
Mr. Kenyak,
It's after 10, you can call me.
Okay,
uh,
just, yeah,
with,
I'm getting paid by the town of Barre.
by the town of Barre.
Yeah.
Okay, so we need 2 attorneys. Okay, that's interesting. I just would also like to know, as a community member, I would love to know how much we are paying both of them, not certain of why we need to have 2. As far as I know, we're very concerned about keeping our taxes down, so just wondering on that, I would like to get that information back, please. The other thing that I'm wondering about, is I did write a letter to each person on the board and only received information back from one that they ever read the public forum letter that I submitted. And so I'm wondering, I'm assuming as you read this evening, Sean, that you said you read it before, but this evening was the first that I'd ever heard anything from any of you, and I asked each one of you in the body of the letter to respond to that letter saying that you were actually reading it. So, which also makes me wonder about the integrity of the people that are supposedly reading things that are supposed to be from a public forum, but if no one reads it anyway, and then it's too late for it even, so what's the sense of having a public forum? Which I also am wondering, what's the sense of having a planning board when you don't listen to them or don't really want to know what the information is that they have? As far as the child with autism, and I believe that a statement was made that as far as the amount of sound, that it's normal conversation among, it's the same as normal conversation. And yet again, I'm wondering if there are no place that have had, and the United States that have had a, 700-foot wind turbines, do we really know? And which people are we saying, well, we don't really care about them? Or, and also wondering how, if, there are areas in the country that can have wind farms without as many people as there are here in Barre. That's another thing that I'm very confused by. Another thing is as far as, I hear many mentions of the taller that they are, the fewer towers that you need. I'm wondering how many fewer towers. I mean, we hear lots of things just being thrown out there, but no numbers. It's kind of like people constantly are saying, as far as tax reduction, well then how much? How much? That's what the people need to really know, how much. And they do also need to know that the cost of electricity is going to go up to fund the process of having these multi-million-dollar wind turbine farms, and just really don't understand that, the logic before that as well. And also, for some reason, why in the world are people who are being paid to offer their opinions and write a list of all these names who are very high percentage of them are receiving funding, a lot of money.
1 minute, Ms. McKenna, please, 1 minute.
And so there is a lot of people that are getting a lot of money, and so they, although if they weren't getting money, they would not want these at all themselves. So I guess there's a lot of inconsistencies here in the conversation tonight. And you know what, you guys, thank you for being so considerate to a fellow board member. And I'm so thankful that she will still continue to be there for you when you need her. And I'm proud of that. I'm really proud of that. And that's a person to respect. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. McKenna. Dr. McKenna?
here. Okay. Don't start my time yet because I'm trying to get organized. Okay, so I guess I want to start by just kind of going back in the history of this when the first Met Towers are going to be put up. And I was being concerned about it, and Councilman McCabe calmed me down and said, I don't know what you're worried about yet. We don't even know if there's enough wind here. We're just seeing if there's enough wind. Well, you know what? We found out there's not enough wind. But did that stop them? 2 years later, I said, why are they still here? They're proposing over what our zoning is. They're taking and, spending money that they don't need to. What is going on? And Councilman Bennett said, I can't help it. If they want to spend money for, a 200, if they only need a $50,000 tractor, but they're going to spend $250,000, who are we to stop them? Well, now we know we're going to push and change anyway. So, what I want to know is when Lance and Dwight and the council people all sat around and said we need to change our wind ordinances, whose idea was it to change it to 700 feet? Anybody want to take that, that it was their idea? I didn't think so. I think what everybody's been saying is this is heritage wind ordinance that you guys are backing up. You guys didn't come up with any of these. You can say over and over, oh, it's going to collapse, you have to be fired. You guys are just listening to heritage wind and you push this through. And so you're so good at that. So I am so hoping that you guys pass the wind ordinance that's the wrong one that was passed by the county, because that'll come back and make you look very, very intelligent. Thank you from the town of Barre for that.
I thought he was gonna
I could
talk
not
about,
believe that you did that. Okay, so and we're changing it for technology. That's our one reasoning we had. So technology, we did, yep. I mean, the Etzel was a great technology. The Titanic was new technology. The mission to Mars that cost us $300 billion when that blew up, that was new technology. I saw a lot of new technology when I was on the island of Hawaii, all rusting away with wind turbines. Yeah, we should go with technology, but there's only one 700-foot one in the nation, and you know what? We're not going to listen to the director that's overseeing that wind turbine. Wow. I don't know where you're coming from on this information. So, and one more thing that I did notice, you're going through the seeker, and you said there was no negative impact, environmental impact, but I know you guys did your homework and you know that 11 of them are located in wetlands or near wetlands, but you did your homework and you knew that. The question that I am going to propose is, according to the Barre Town Comprehensive Plan, on page 6.2, the annual review is proposed during the first 5 years. We're in the fourth year, and we're in really the fifth year coming up. So it's time to review this. It should be reviewed annually, an annual review, and then the review should be identified all action proposed in the plan and note which had been taken place. Actions that are still needed should be included in the updated action plan. After 5 years, a more detailed review should be undertaken. So I would like you, as a town board, to consider that and say, it's time to review our comprehensive plan and either make up a committee of citizens to review it or pass it on to the planning board. And maybe we can get another survey done for the comprehensive plan, maybe one that includes actually wind turbines. The survey that I looked at that was done in 2013, on the heading we were going to say that wind was coming in, but of the 33 questions, there was not one question, not one, on wind turbines. So you still don't know or don't care what this community wants. I think that should be done. As far as the comprehensive plan, I don't feel that we're really following the comprehensive plan. I don't know if I have my paperwork here that would point that out. Let's see. Policy B. Mainly it's let agricultural stay agriculture, and we're not really doing that. see, F, number 3, voluntary design standards should encourage the development of interior lands and the preservation of vistas and countryside. Putting up 33 structures the size of the St. Louis Arc that's going to move and lights does not preserve the vistas and countryside of Barre.
Dr. McKenna, 1 minute.
Yes, is it 5 minutes?
You're coming up real close.
Okay. Encourage farming as the preferred land use. Let's see, natural resources and environmental protection, protect the wetlands. There's going to be 11 turbines that are located in or near the wetlands. But you said there was a negative impact on environmental, so who cares on that? And the annual reviews, no reviews have been done. We need public input and listen to the public, not just the leaseholders. The green energy thing will not alter the natural and cultural regions. It will. And there's been 3 surveys done that you haven't really looked at any of them or accepted any of them, but they're all said no to the regulations that you just passed. I would say if everybody wanted to, I had a dream last night, and I think a movie we all should look at right now is 8 Men Out. I mean, it's priceless. You can take and put the fans as the citizens of Barre, and the players as the town board and conflicted members of the planning board, and just go from there. It's too bad we don't have a commissioner. That's all I have to say.
Okay, thank you very much, sir.
Who's this?
This is Sean.
That's Sean? Oh, okay. You sound like Floyd. I'm sorry, Sean.
No, sir. It's the mask.
Okay.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. McKenna. Have a good evening. Okay, do I hear a
I make a
motion?
motion, we adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So be it. Thank you. It's passed. Okay. That one closed out?
This one I shut it off. They turned it back on when
Yeah, I got a
somebody
couple of
texted.
texts saying they couldn't hear you too well, but it's partly the mask.
It is.
If George didn't know who was talking to him just now. Have to put this. Oh, it's late. Maureen,
Yes,
thank you very much.
you're welcome.
You got some stew left, hot roast or whatever?
Thank God. That's why I made my supper. I made myself a peanut butter and honey sandwich.
That sounds all right.
And I washed it down with a bang, so I had the caffeine. Because I knew this was gonna take a little while tonight.
And so this up is off, correct?
Push back, I think, is off on it.
Yeah, push back on it. You push that one back? Thank you,
Yeah, this
sir.
one I pushed back.
And the green light is off there?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
You make a stop before I get out.
Okay,
Yeah, me too.
thank you, folks.
Cold.